So if you would like to sign up on there, now would be your opportunity to do so. Directors, in the meantime, while people are signing up, I will note that we do have quorums for both boards. If you have any conflicts of interest, which should be disclosed prior to the meeting beginning for either of the two districts, kindly let me know. Otherwise, I would, for district number 1, entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented. And I will confirm that we did post the meeting notices. Director, for district number 1, is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented, please?
I'll motion.
Thank you. And a second, please.
I'll second.
I'll
Jason.
second it. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Perfect. I have Director Manley on the second. Are there any opposed directors in district number 1?
Dave, I have a question.
You will have to hold tight. District number 2, is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented, please?
So moved.
And who was that? Was Director Gonzalez? Is there a second, please?
I'll second, Andy.
Thank you, Director Matches. Are there any opposed? Wonderful. Then we're on to the public comments portion of the agenda. Directors, just like last month, everybody will have 3 minutes to address the board. I do have a list started through the chat. I will check with people after those have had a chance to address you. Once we've closed the public comments for those who are attending, that is your only opportunity to address the board this month. There'll be no additional opportunities for you to address the board. I want to be very clear that if you interrupt the meeting during the course of the meeting, I'll have to remove you from the meeting. So please adhere to that. I would also ask that for all who are joining the meeting this evening for purposes of addressing the board, you remember that the board is an elected board, and I would expect you to conduct yourselves in a manner that is consistent with that. You would address the state legislature or any other governing elected body, please. So with that said, I will put, for anybody who would like me to, the 3-minute clock on the screen for you while you're speaking. Simply ask to begin with, and I will be happy to do that. The list I have will begin with Josh Mom. Josh, if you would like to address the board, kindly just let me know if you'd like the 3-minute clock on the screen, or if you just want me to run that in the background here for myself.
You can run it in the background for yourself.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Josh Malm, 140 Pebblebrook Court. Tonight, I again request the immediate resignation of Directors Davis and Filius. Director Davis, you continue to disregard the district's financial resources, community priorities, accountability, and trust, and it remains deeply concerning. Since the last meeting alone, you filed unnecessary quorum requests targeting my communications, wasting valuable district resources. Engaged district council repeatedly with frivolous and inappropriate requests, some violating state statute showing a disregard for proper governance. Consumed SDNMS resources by repeatedly reporting trivial covenant violations distracting from essential community needs. Rather than focus on meaningful community improvements, your actions seem driven by personal grievances and power struggles. Tonight's proposal for a video recording policy, which no resident requested, transparently serves your personal interest to not get caught again, rather than addressing genuine community concerns. Director Filius, your admission at the last meeting that you've had real problems knowing what's happening in our districts is troubling and unacceptable. It demonstrates your continued lack of initiative and engagement. During our shared tenure on the board, you consistently failed to propose meaningful actions or resolutions and showed minimal effort to educate yourself on important issues. Allow me to recall a memorable moment demonstrating your disengagement. In December 2024, you received an email notifying you that Oakwood had accepted the settlement agreement along with an executed copy of the agreement. In response, you said, "It looks like I have some reading to do." Had you not read the agreement that we had spent 2 years negotiating, had multiple board meetings to discuss, and voted on multiple times? I want to point out how each of you continued to ignore community feedback. Director Davis, in the last meeting, you referred to your actions as being blown out of proportion on Facebook, and then referring to it in an email as a bitch session with respect to over 1,100 constituents on our community Facebook page. I see regular posts on this Facebook page discussing district landscaping, finances, the pool, how to participate in these meetings, and of course, calling for your resignation. Directors Manley and Baca regularly interact with the community and provide direction on these posts. What is clearly absent is significant concern over covenants, trying to exclude Director Manley from committees, video recordings at the clubhouse, or any of the other topics you continue to pursue. Recall efforts for Director Filius are underway, and similar actions against Director Davis will continue when eligible. I urge you both to demonstrate a little bit of integrity and resign and allow our community to move forward positively. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malm. Let me remind people, please stay on mute until it's your turn to speak. The next speaker I have is Aaron Young. Aaron, would you like me to put the clock on the calendar for you? Aaron, you are on mute. Stand by, come off of mute, please.
Can you hear me?
Certainly can. Would you like to have the clock placed on the screen for you, or would you like to speak without a clock?
In the background is fine.
Okay. Your time has begun now.
I am here once again to call for the resignation of Kris Filius and Jim Davis from the Erie Highlands Metro District 1 board. This request, once again, is not made lightly, but rather in response to a growing pattern of concern for myself and many others, as just stated by Mr. Malm, regarding transparency, accountability, and the overall direction of our district leadership. It has become clear that a significant number of residents have lost confidence in the ability of you, Ms. Filius and Mr. Davis, to represent the best interests of this community, thus the continued forward movement of the recall committee. Residents have raised concerns about how public funds are being managed, whether certain members of the board are acting in good faith to serve the people who live here. The lack of transparency in key matters, along with blatant disregard for decorum, has only deepened the mistrust, hence the need for Mr. Manley to request a quorum to find information. The calls for resignation are not isolated or impulsive, and despite Mr. Davis's unprofessional claim, they are not, quote, BS. Mr. Davis, you have referred to your neighbors, those who you are supposed to represent, as cowards. You have demeaned our concerns as nothing but, quote, a bitch session. And you continue to spend the limited funds we have on your own personal agenda. Jim, look at me when you are being spoken to. Do not mistake our fury for fear. We are no cowards. We are simply done tolerating this nonsense. Leadership is a privilege, not a right. A true leader is trustworthy, and neither of you are worthy of trust, plain and simple. We must restore integrity and trust in our local governance. Kris and Jim, you need to reflect on whether holding on to these positions is truly serving the community or simply serving your ego. Sometimes the most courageous and ethical decision a leader can make is to step aside and let others do what is right and what is best for the greater good. Please resign. We will continue with the recall, and you will be removed. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Young. Next on the list, I have Christy Cowers.
Thank you, David.
Christy, would you let me know if you'd like to have the clock on the screen or if I should just run that behind the scenes here?
I think I'm good. I've timed my remarks. Thank you.
Fair enough. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Christy Cowers, 100 Pear Lake Way. I am here to ask Directors Davis and Filius to resign immediately. You do not represent the will or the heart of this community. Jim, I'd like to address you personally. I am not what you have called an anonymous coward participating in a bitch session on Facebook. During the last 2 meetings, you roll your eyes, shake your head, and sneer at those of us providing comment, as you have already done tonight. When you speak to us, you are defensive, dismissive, and complain that everything you've said is blown out of proportion. With respect, there is a paper trail that shows you to be arrogant, dismissive, mocking. There is documentation showing that you personally took on the responsibility to self-monitor what you deem to be covenant infractions, or in your words, the naughty list. And you have done this seemingly without taking any time to understand the precedent of covenant enforcement in this neighborhood. This speaks to your being unfit to serve as president of Metro District 1. At the least, there should have been a transition of leadership whereby board members with experience and historical perspective graduate into the presidential role. Instead, your ego got in the way. I've reviewed the minutes from past meetings. Slates with board members who have experience serving in the officer roles were voted down by you, Kris Filius, and Sam Mayer. Which brings me to you, Kris. I was eager to see you engage on the neighborhood Facebook page. You encouraged talking with each other by phone or email, but you failed to provide any means to contact you. And when one located an email address, you had prevented receipt of messages from unknown senders. This is not a welcoming stance. You then went on to say that serving on the board requires following rules, but found those rules unclear and confusing, despite being a veteran member of this board. This does not instill confidence in your leadership. You then didn't just leave the discussion, you dropped out of the neighborhood Facebook page. Personally, I have a love-hate relationship with Facebook. As a community member, though, I value it as a place to be neighborly. The fact that neither Kris nor Jim participate is telling. It is not a place where idle gossip happens. Lost items are found, broken pipes are reported, resources and information are shared. Last month, 130 people logged on to the board meeting. Today, there are over 50, a remarkable number given the timing with the long holiday weekend. Facebook builds community and provides an efficient place to engage diverse voices. I want to close.
You have 10 seconds, Christy.
I want to close with my grave concerns about how Jim and Kris treat their fellow board members. You disparage them and actively try to undermine them. This has been captured in video and in writing. This is not about hurt feelings, it's about accountability. Resign.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cowers. Next on my list, I have Luke Engen. Luke, would you like me to run the clock for you on the screen, or shall I keep that in the back?
On the screen would be helpful, thank you.
I'm happy to do so.
My name's Luke. I'm at 1106 Sugarloaf in District 2. And my comments today and a question pertain to the privacy fencing that Oakwood has installed along the interior property boundaries within the community. It's my understanding that the material used is vinyl, and I have a suspicion based on the buckling that I'm witnessing that the fences are not intended for use as retaining walls. Could anybody on my board please confirm whether it's appropriate to use them as retaining walls? And if indeed not, what can be done about, dirt, soil, rocks, and other debris piled on one side of the fence causing visible buckling? I'm concerned in particular about damage and about the time frame for replacement of the fencing throughout the community. Thank you, and that concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Engen. I will also remind everybody that the board will not address you or respond to questions or comments during the course of this public comment period. They may come back and do so after the fact. For the next speaker, I have Tracy Daniel Welfring. Tracy, are you ready to go? And would you like me to have the clock on the screen for you?
Sure, you can just walk up.
I will be happy to do so.
On the screen is fine. Thank you. Good evening, all. I once again would like to go on record and state that we do not have an HOA in our neighborhood, and the district should not be run like we have or are an HOA. I did not build a home to live in a neighborhood with an HOA, let alone a heavily covenant-controlled HOA. We live in a metro district, and the district is us, the homeowners, residents, not the board in their capacity as directors. You are merely representatives. You serve purely at our pleasure, and right now there are two of you that are profoundly disappointed and displeased many of us. Director Davis, you specifically have not even acknowledged your wrongdoing, let alone apologized for your unlawful and unethical actions. In fact, based on tonight's agenda, it seems you intend to continue to ignore the majority of residents and continue down a path of personal vendettas and agendas. That's not representation, that's tyranny. As such, I continue to strongly urge Director Davis and Phileas to resign their positions effective immediately. We don't want or need your type of representation. As far as agenda items are concerned, I would like the board to consider allowing public comment either during or at the end of these meetings. It's very difficult to comment about proposed motions that affect us all when we don't know the positions of our directors or have all the information relevant to the matter. We can no longer assume positive intent and decisions made for the good of the entire neighborhood with the current Board 1 makeup. Case in point, quote, consider adoption of resolution regarding electronic video recordings of the district enclosure. Without knowing what is contained in the enclosure, I want to express my desire to keep the current protocols in place to monitor the pool and clubhouse. There have been numerous times as a community going many years back where we have needed these resources to identify individuals violating established rules and or outright destroying district property. If you're doing nothing wrong, you should have no issue with existing monitoring or sharing of said resources to aid the district. I would also like to go on record opposing district spending to issue parking violations in the neighborhood when the district has no authority to do so. Our streets are owned and controlled by Town of Erie, and enforcement of law should remain in that purview. And finally, for purposes of transparency, I would like to know if there are any formally outlined roles and responsibilities for each board position. It has always been my understanding that the board acts as a unit and does not grant unilateral authority to any one board member to provide guidance to third parties. If so, where are those published? If they are not published, could those be added to the district website? In conjunction, I would also love to know what board committees exist at any given point in time and who their members are. I know of a design review committee, a pool committee, and some type of budget committee. Could those also be added to the district website as well? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next person I have is Annie Gray. Annie, would you like me to keep the clock on the screen or shall I take that down?
You can leave it on there. Thank you.
I'd be happy to.
Okay. So I'm here to call for Jim Davis and Kris Phillis's resignation. Both of them have shown to me that they're grossly unqualified to represent Erie Highlands. Jim Davis, you wrote off the Facebook group's feedback and you minimize us all, saying that we're anonymous cowards. And we're not. We are your neighbors. We are literally the people you're here to represent. We are the voice of Erie Highlands, and we've had enough of you. The fact that it came out that you tried to cut out Director Manley out of the loop, saying nothing goes to Jason, is exactly in character with the actions of the three directors who were scheming to tarnish his reputation with the usage of moles. I can tell you that I have not been deeply engaged in the past with district metro affairs, but even so, I still knew that ex-president Josh Malm and Jason Manley were incredibly good people for our community. They really cared and they volunteered their time willingly for the betterment of the community. I was very impressed with them. Time and time again, they proved their goodwill and intention. And on the other hand, time and time again, Jim Davis and Kris Phillis have shown me that they utterly disregard the voice of the neighborhood. The fact that after all of this, you still want to waste our limited budget on investigating landscaping of neighbors who have properly and by the book been doing their xeriscaping plans, getting it approved, is just really on brand for you. And wanting to spend more budget on parking issues because is landscaping police not good enough for you? I think enough is enough. I don't know why you're doing this. Please listen to the neighborhood when we say we do not want your leadership. Do the right thing like Director Mayer did and resign and stop wasting our funds. I'm done.
Thank you very much. The next speaker I have is Joe Swanson. Joe, would you like to have the clock kept on the screen or not?
Yes, please. That's good. I don't know that I'll fill my full 3 minutes. I'm Joe, 576 Indian Peaks Drive here in Erie Highlands. I would also like to request the resignation of Directors Filius and Davis for behaviors that are simply unbecoming of representatives for this community. I myself have been a member of HOA boards and am currently on a quasi-judicial board. Open meeting laws are not hard to understand or hard to follow, yet they seem to have violated them on several occasions, and in the process of violating OML, have managed to speak negatively of fellow board members. It makes me wonder how they can now work collaboratively with those board members. You are now asking for the removal of safety cameras and monitors in the clubhouse. I feel this is because you were expecting privacy rights in a space where there are no expectations of privacy for comments that you made post-meeting in your second or third violation of OML laws. And it seems to me that you have lost not only my confidence, but the confidence of a significant number of board members. I have no ill will or feelings towards you. I just feel you have lost that confidence, and it is time for you to step down for the good of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. That's all I have on the list of people who had signed up on chat. I will say, Dennis, I noticed that you have a raised hand. Is that so you can also speak to the board?
Yes, please, David.
Would you like me to leave the clock on the screen for you, sir, or shall I take that down?
If you don't mind leaving it up, I think that's quite helpful. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
David, as we start our seconds, I'm going to start my comments by complimenting you. You know how to run a meeting, my friend, and it is a breath of fresh air. I really enjoy the way you listen and you act. You're awesome. Just want to say that. I also would like to send a shout out to Andy and Keith. We didn't have an opportunity to share our thoughts at the end of the last meeting, but the work that you two did is remarkable. I know that that did not happen by itself. I just want you to know Dennis is grateful. Thank you. You did a fantastic job. I would ask for next year, can we get some D1 support for Andy and Keith? In other words, instead of just a two-person committee, can we get 3 or 4? I think that would go a long way. The next thing I wanted to address, I know I'm bouncing around quite a bit, but I promise I only have 2 other topics. In replacing Mr. Mayor, there's been an idea floated out there that we would ask D2 to go through the candidates and make a recommendation. I'm a little bit apprehensive about that because District 2's board, their primary responsibility is for District 2. So there's a conflict of interest in making sure that I get represented appropriately if a different district with different concerns is making a recommendation as to who's going to represent me. I'm a little bit concerned there. Actually, I'm a lot concerned there. So I'd like to put it out there. Please rethink that. I think that the 4 members who are on the District 1 board, they can put their grown-up pants on and figure out who to use or who to select to replace Mr. Mayor. And lastly, and this is going to be a little bit touchy, and I apologize for that, but I'm very concerned that whoever does get the nod be given the grace and be given the permission to vote their conscience without worrying about having the neighborhood turned on them. Now, I'm not defending Director Filius and Director Davis. Please don't misunderstand me. But I am concerned that whoever does fill that seat needs to feel safe to do what they believe is the right thing to do. Thank you. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, Dennis. And Dennis, I also thank you for the kind comments to begin.
You earned it.
Thank you, sir. I see Tony has a raised hand. Tony, would you like to address the board as well?
I don't know why you're contact me.
Tony, you have a raised hand. Would you like to address the board?
Yes, I would.
Perfect. Would you like me to leave the clock on the screen for you, sir, or would you prefer I take that down?
No,
I'd be
yes,
happy
please.
to. I'll go ahead and begin that clock for you on your first words.
Numerous resident comments have suggested a merger of D1 and D2. This is not legally possible. Each district has their own bond debt, mill levy rate, and tax collection set with Weld County. You should note that the debt for D2 is twice that of D1. D2's debt is over 17 million and D1's debt is about 8.6 million. The mill levy rate for D2 is 78.3, while the D1 rate is 52.8. If we join the districts, the increased tax on D1 residents would be at least a 50% increase, a minimum of $1,000 per household in D1. Combining districts isn't legal, and all discussion on this issue should end, but consider why it's being promoted. I'm saddened and concerned about the threats on Facebook. For the record, my wife, after being disconnected from Facebook, did attempt to reconnect. Facebook showed her being connected pending, but then was rejected. With all the threats and the violence that she dealt with, she chose not to get on Facebook again. She's not going to deal with that amount of threats to her or to our family. In the short period of time that Kris has been the treasurer, which is about 6 weeks, she has uncovered $40,000 in billing errors. This past week alone, she corrected a contract error and saved D1 $17,000. The recall committee members are posting some false information. Jim Davis and Kris Filius are not proposing any new covenants. Both want equal covenant enforcement for all residents, including all board members. There shouldn't be any special treatment. And for the record, the town of Erie, chief of police, and the town of Erie and the chief of police have affirmed our parking violation authority, and our founding documents detail the guidelines and the fines. Nothing new here, nothing created. Now, Jim's list that was posted on Facebook was of design and parking issues was reported to MSI years ago. The lack of enforcement then and now will only lead to further decline of our community. The guidelines exist to enhance and protect the aesthetic nature, attractiveness, desirability, quality, and value of our community area, the improvements, and the residences. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. At this time, I don't see any additional hands raised, and I had no additional people who were listed in the chat. Is there anybody else who would like to address the board? Now would be your opportunity. Kindly come off mute and let me know.
Hey, this is Charlie. I'll say something quick. Good to go.
Would you like me to put the clock back on the screen for you, Charlie, or are you
that's okay.
I'll run that in the back? Fair enough, sir.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
Charlie Pickrell, 240 Highland Circle. Classic HOA stuff that I'm stand up for. I think a couple of years ago we had a clock in the at the pool area. Wondering if we can get one back there. I'd be happy to buy it and put it up. I just didn't want to get in trouble if that's the case. Maybe if a board member could just say, "Yeah, go ahead. We won't raise any issues with that. I can get a standard clock and hang it over there." That would be kind of nice. Regarding the lifeguards, last year the lifeguards were really unchill. They have chilled out this year, except for one lifeguard who I've seen threaten to call the cops on residents because their kid was about half an inch too short, but could still stand in the area by the slide. Even when the parent was standing right next to him. Kid can swim. I've never actually seen a lifeguard offer the swim test to kids who are under the 48 inches. So I'm a little concerned about some of the behavior of mostly one lifeguard there. So, if anybody's interested to reach out, I can give some more information. But for the most part, lifeguards are fine. But the pool monitor thing, I don't know, I might be on board with that. Just in response to, I think, Dennis's comment, the I really think that the board members should be serving at the behest of the neighborhood. Just because they get elected in by some members doesn't mean that they should just be able to go around and do whatever they think is correct. If the majority of the neighbors say, "Hey, we don't agree with what you're doing," they should step back and say, "Okay, well, let's see what we can come to an agreement." I think that's just the way a community should be run. I think I guess cut me off if I need to be. The city council man, I can't remember his name. He came on and spoke last month, I think. He said that a lot of metro board districts are different and they have a separate HOA. And in that situation, maybe the HOA for District 1 and District 2 could be combined, do all the covenants together, all the HOA stuff. And then the metro districts would be separate to deal with their own bonds. I think there's a lot of different ways that we could maybe structure that, for rules of the community and everything else. So just making sure that everyone's thinking about all the different options out there. And not seeing us as District 1 versus District 2, and we're just one neighborhood and one community supporting each other. All right, thanks.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else who would like to address the board during the public comment portion of the agenda? If so, feel free to come off of mute, identify yourself, and let me know if you would like the clock on the screen. I'll ask again, if anybody would like to address the board, now would be your opportunity. Please let me know before we shut down the public comments portion. This will be your only opportunity on the agenda to address the boards. Good enough, then we can go ahead and close the public comments. Directors, as I did last month, I'm going to give directors a chance to respond to any of the comments they'd like to, rather than call on directors in a roll call fashion as I did last month. What I think I'd like to do is open it to directors from each of the two districts. And if you would like to address, you certainly have that opportunity. If you don't want to say anything, that's certainly your option as well. I will address a couple of the comments very quickly before I open it to the boards, just to prevent us going too far in wrong directions. The question regarding a clock in the pool area, I am more than happy to ask Charlie in my office to get a clock installed out there, directors, so you need not address that. We'll make sure that that gets taken care of. As far as the fences, the retaining wall, I do notice that Jason had put, before I shut down the chat, there was, Director Manley, a note from you to the resident to let the resident know to contact Oakwood, which is what I would have also recommended. If this is a private fence, this would be a matter for the homeowner, and if it's under warranty, then it's something I would imagine working directly with Oakwood, you're going to have your greatest opportunity for success. Whether or not you have the greatest success is yet to be determined. And then finally, the question regarding the swim test from the YMCA. Unfortunately, the Y, and we've been working with them, is not offering swim tests this year. And we did, though, and I don't recall who, I think it may have been Chuck, you're the one who brought that up. It is something that we have asked the Y, since this one child is so close to the 48 inches. This one parent is so adamant that the child should be able to take a swim test. So we have asked the Y if they will look into this matter for us and see if we can't figure out for this one child an opportunity for them to be able to be grandfathered, if you will, under the old rules. So we are working on that. I don't know what the status of that is as of today, but I have personally been involved in trying to get this taken care of in as expeditious and as accommodating a fashion as possible. With that said, those were the notes that I had, and I'd like to now open it to any of the directors from District 1. If you'd like to address comments, please come off of mute and do so.
I guess I can go. This is Jason with D1. First and foremost, I do want to say thank you to the community. We're up to 60 members that have now joined. As mentioned, on a holiday week, that is outstanding. As has been mentioned many times, we serve at the behest of this community. Your feedback is critical. Your voices are critical at the board meetings, through conversations as you're walking through the neighborhood, and even on our community Facebook page. I do want to add a few clarifying points, just some comments I heard from Tony, Kris Phyllis's husband. I heard mention of conversations about joining the board has been discussed. I never seen a conversation around that. I don't think I've been involved in any conversations around that, so I'm a bit perplexed about that one, as I don't think that's ever came up. All the board members know that it's not something a technical possibility. We're here to pay out our bonds and to work as our independent districts. Anyone that's served on this board for more than a small period of time knows the form and fashion of the boards. So I guess I'm a bit confused of where that piece is coming in or coming up from. To Dennis's question earlier about the appointment of the spot from where Sam Meyer's reassignment is. So Dennis, that comment is from me that posted out and I'll do the actual talk about it when we get to his resignations piece, but it would be in conjunction and help with D2. Knowing the tensions right now on the D1 board, the reason I throw that out there as a comment is we are one community. Even though it's a D1 and D2 serving, we're one community. We need to work as a whole. Having the two districts worked hand in hand, especially with the IGA between us, understanding what that is, having people that we actually enjoy working with is critical to being able to serve the community as a whole, not just one district. So that's the reason why I was when we get to that point, I was gonna make the motion to see if we could have D2 assist in that, not be the only owner of, but be the assisting party in. And then the only other clarifying point I was going to make is Keith was the one that added that line in there. I was about to type in right when you killed the chat, Dave. So yeah, it was Keith that gave that out. But Luke, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to either Keith or myself, and we'll also do our best to help and assist you on that and run it down where we can. I have quite a few questions of what area you're talking about and see if we can help you track down the proper resource.
Thank you, Director Manley. And Luke, I would offer our office as well. If you think it might be on a district parcel, we certainly can have our team take a look at the wall or at the fence. District number 1 directors, any additional directors who'd like to offer comments?
I am going to offer just a quick comment on Dennis. Dennis had said Andy, Keith doing a great job, which I absolutely agree. They are wonderful. So prior to the new alignment of officers, I know that Jason was also very involved in that prior to Christine. I can't speak for Christine and I can't speak for Andy and Keith, but I know that that is something that she also helps with. And so there is some help coming from the D1 board. It's supposed to be coming from D1. I don't know because I'm not involved in those meetings or talking about the finances. So I just wanted to throw that out. And then I think we're going to get to the parking violations. I wrote down everybody's comments and questions that weren't, that were actually for the board and not the resignation. And I think that takes care of it. If I'm missing anything else or anybody else has something that wasn't, please raise your hand because I think that's it.
Thank you, Director Baca. District 1 board, any additional comments from directors?
This is Christine Filius. Am I unmuted?
You're on Director Davis's microphone,
Yes.
but we can certainly hear you.
Okay, that's the important part. Well, I could also do there I am. Communication has always been very important to me. I expect all homeowners will receive notifications and updates. No one's going to be left out. And it's been frustrating to me that as we've started this year, particularly independently from Oakwood, that hasn't been a priority, even though the neighbors that I've spoken with that have come to me have been very frustrated by that. So that was my hope and goal going forward with this. the things that have been said, Erie Highlands cannot be turned into an HOA. One of the comments mentioned that as well, I believe. Founding bylaws forbid it. Even if all 5 board members wanted to do so, we couldn't do it. And nobody does that I know of. So it couldn't happen. And no, I never had any knowledge that there were cameras available, because all these meetings need to be done at home because our clubhouse doesn't support video or recording. So I was quite surprised to see it has nothing to do with privacy or trying to be secretive, but I was told something that was not true. So I want the community to work together. The residents of the community are the community. And me as a board member want to support you residents in the whatever best way possible. So also, I don't think we've advertised the Erie Highlands 1-2.colorado.gov website enough for SDMS. It's our legally recognized primary source for district information. The first place the resident is instructed to go. And we've had a couple of suggestions, I think, tonight for information to put on there, which is good because SDMS is building the website and they need suggestions if the proper information is not there. So SDMS maintains the website, populates it, and sends out notifications as they can. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Filius. Any other directors from District Number 1 who'd like to address the public? Now is the opportunity to do so.
Are we allowed to, sorry, David, am I allowed to speak on the comments about the resignation request, or am I not allowed to do that?
It is your floor, Director Baca. You can speak on anything you'd like to.
Okay, so I know that there's been several comments, requests for resignation. And what I want to share, and I've tried to keep very quiet on Facebook because I am somebody who likes to seek first to understand before I say anything. And I've taken a lot of time, a lot of energy, and reading a lot of emails. And the thing that I want to say is that the words that were spoken that day in the clubhouse, they were done with intention, and the intention to harm other people. And it did. It hurt feelings. I know that nobody thought that they were going to be hurt or didn't understand that there were cameras, which is crazy because we've talked about the cameras needing to be replaced and upgraded. So that 100% is not true. I've been on this board for a while. I have been part of the community for years and have known that those cameras are there. So if you didn't know they were there, then you were not listening. But back to the intention. There was clear intention when the 3 of you sat down, and there were things that were said, things that weren't directed to me per se, besides the cancer card, which that's what it is. But intention to hurt Jason. And my feeling on this is Jason has been a key person in this community since I've moved here. He is one of the kindest people that I have ever met. I have no idea what maliciousness you guys have against him, but I ask you to get to know him as a person, because I am a very forgiving person. I am a great listener. I'm a great leader. I head up a team of people of over 100 people. And Jason has never once said to me, did something to me that was malicious. And listening to what was said about him broke my heart, because he has put so much time in this neighborhood and has helped us to get past the Oakwood piece of it, and has put hours that no one else, you know, him and Josh have done wonders for this neighborhood. And for us to have to take so much time and energy to now try to recall people because they don't have the same intentions is a total waste of time, of resources. I want this board to all share the same vision. I want the leader to be somebody who can take accountability. I want the leader to be somebody who can hold that role with integrity and not be hiding or not wanting to have conversations or not wanting emails to be sent to certain members. Because, Jim, I don't know you personally, but I want you to know that I don't think you're a bad person. I truly don't. But I think that the role that is required here is probably something that maybe you don't understand how the Metro District works versus an HOA. But I just ask that you listen to the people who live in this neighborhood, because I want this neighborhood to get back to a place where we can all live, cross our streets, say hello to one another and not have all of this tension rising. I personally am just over it. There are many other things that we need to concentrate on, and this should not be one of them. And Christine, I think that you're a great person. We get along great. I believe that you were probably asked to be put in this position by Jim and by Sam at the time. I don't think that you're not educated. I don't think that you're not smart, but I don't think that you have the experience to do what needs to be done. Jason was phenomenal. And you yourself had told me in meetings how great he was at what he was doing. And so I don't want this to be a thing where we need to buddy up with each other. I want to get back to doing what's right for this community. I want to get back to show what we can do as a board to move past the crappy position that Oakwood has put us in. And I stand with what I say. I think you are all wonderful people, but maybe not the perfect fit for this position. And I truly hope that you think about what our community is asking for and what our neighbors are asking for, because we owe them that. And this is a volunteer position. We put a lot of hours into this. And I want to go forward with a team that can build this neighborhood up and not constantly be wondering what other people are planning, because does not work for me. That is not what I'm interested in doing. So please just do what's right for this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Baca. District 1, any additional director comments?
I will address the comment about the line that Jason conveniently posted on Facebook about nothing to go to Jason. That was strategically taken from an email that I sent to Jeff and to David regarding invoicing issues and billing issues, because Jason was no longer the treasurer, and that I had asked if he could do a transition plan with Kris, and he said absolutely not, that he would not help in any way, shape, form, or fact. And that's why I asked that nothing else to do with the invoices and bills be sent to Jason. So it was strategically taken out of an email, and that's where I'll leave it. Thank you.
I'll just respond to that real quick. The email was posted as whole.
This is
what was sent to.
Actually,
no, I'm sorry, but you're saying that I misrepresenting information, which is wrong. The email was brought out to a core request. The core request had everything that you had sent to legal and to district management. That email was taken directly to what went to district management. No modifications, no updates, no changes were done to that email. It was taken directly as it was and presented. As far as how you mentioned that I did not want to help you or Kris or things on those lines, yes, you emailed me asking, hey, will you guide us? My response was, everything that was being done, everything that's happening as far as the treasurer role is things that have been discussed ad nauseum as part of the board's separation from Oakwood. So everything that it needed to be done, everything that had been talked about, the question you asked, oh, what invoices need to be approved? What does need to be approved? Kris nominated herself for that role. If she was not ready or able to do that role, then you guys should not have nominated her into that spot. So yes, I let you guys figure it out because you said it's not what you wanted. So correct. But at the same aspect and same token of that, the email you sent, nothing goes to Jason, where literally the words you sent, no modifications were made to that email.
I said it was conveniently placed below the covenant thing, stuck in there, and it was not related to that at all.
Well, the words you used, and this is what I keep bringing up and saying every time, the words that people are seeing are the words you say. The other piece, I'm just going to close this out and I'll be done. Kris, you just said you want to do what you want to listen to the community and you want to do what's best for the community. The community has spoken multiple times at length and loudly. They want you to leave your post. There is active recall campaign going on against you. Signs are in yards. If you want to do what is best for the community, listen to them. You say you want to do what's best, listen. I know you and your husband both are making decisions on this, going through things. You say you got blocked off of the Facebook page. That's not true. You were not blocked. You were not removed. You did not fill out the information. So the bot automatically declined you because you did not put information. You left the Facebook page. No one is targeting you. No one is saying, hey, we don't want to hear from you. You're free to join and communicate with people as much as you want, but listen to that communication. Listen to all the comments that happen in here. You can't say you want to do what's best for the community and then ignore when everyone asks for you to leave your role and leave the post. So that's where I'll leave it, and I will go back on mute.
District 1 directors, any final comments? District 2 directors, any comments you would like to offer back to the public?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and comment, David. There's a lot that I would like to say, but I'll keep it brief since I know, I appreciate everyone being on this call. First of all, I want to thank everyone for being on here. Once again, 60 people on a holiday weekend is absolutely unbelievable. So love the community engagement. In regards to the resignation and recall, I mean, I think I am a believer. Obviously, I'm D2, so I don't have a vote in the recall or anything like that. But I'm a firm believer that, just like has been said, yes, we obviously have two different districts. We are well aware of the different bond amounts and how D2 has to pay significantly more in taxes because of it. But we are one community. We have a lot of shared resources. We have the same goals. We have all of that. So, I do have a dog in the fight in that, we all got to work together. And so, to me, it's simple. The community has spoken. They want the resignation. It's like you guys can resign and we can get on to how the community wants things to do it, or they'll go through the recall process. I think we can all agree, or most of us can agree, that the healthier route, resign and let us continue to move forward on what needs to be best for the community. So, in regards to, I wasn't going to bring up Jim's email, but to me, it seemed pretty cut and dry. Jim's saying that, it was misconstrued and just about invoices. I have it right in front of me here. It says subject is new management. It was sent on May 13th at 10:37. So that is literally right after the meeting that he got sworn in as president. So there is no way that he had a chance to reach out to Jason and have this whole talk about invoices and transitioning in the time that meeting ended at 10:30 and he sent the email at 10:37. So sorry, Jim, that's a load of BS. You did not reach out into Jason and then send out that email. That email was sent right after and had nothing to do with invoices. You were trying to block Jason. And there's also another email where you sent out that clearly said nothing to Jason and Mitchell. So I know Jim's letter that he wanted to go out was a really big deal to him and everything. And so I actually have the letter in front of me. I'm going to go ahead and read a paragraph of the email of the letter that was going to go out to the community. It says, I am committed to transparency regarding board meetings and agendas. I plan to work with the board to establish clear channels of communication that enable residents to stay informed about the decisions and discussions shaping our community. By sharing detailed information and actively soliciting feedback, I hope to foster a spirit of collaboration and trust. Mission failed there, Jim. I think the one thing is that I think the community actually is a lot stronger. We've been collaborating, but you've made no attempt to be a part of that collaboration, or obviously you've done nothing to build trust within the community. If you want to do that, I think resigning would be a great first step. Transparency. Obviously there's a lot of emails that you're sending out to management trying to make decisions without us. there's been no collaboration with D2, even though you've made it pretty clear that covenant controls is of utmost importance. I'm not going to read this whole letter, but Jim does mention covenant controls about 4 different times in that. So I think, unfortunately, Jim, I think you'd be a great fit for an HOA. But this is not an HOA. I think you've maybe, were misinformed on how this works. But, we are not an HOA. We're never going to be an HOA. And if you're trying to run it like an HOA, that is not going to happen because that's not what the community wants. So to go back, I mean, I know you're saying that you're not trying to take control. You don't want to be policing it, but I mean, literally an email went out with 45 covenant complaints. Like, tell me that you're not trying to, police it without telling me that. It's like clearly 45 covenant complaints, all I would consider to be pretty minor. In your email, I'm going to leave it at this. Your email that went out, you made it a point to say that, you intentionally removed myself and Jason. And you said nothing in the covenant documents gives them discretion to pick and choose what covenants will or not be adhered to. Now, I thought that was interesting because I'm not over here trying to pick which covenants to enforce and not enforce. I've never made a covenant complaint, and probably never will. Now, you have made 45 of them just in that 1 month. Now, it seems like you're pretty well adverse to covenants. One of them says, an owner may keep permitted pets in their residence or their lots, provided that an owner shall not allow any permitted pets off the owner's lot unless such permitted pet is properly leashed and accompanied by the pet owner. Now, my understanding is I've heard from numerous residents that, you're no stranger to walking your dog off leash. Now, to me, it sounds like that is someone that is trying to pick and choose which covenants to enforce. This is why we let SDMS do covenant controls, because it is impossible for us to do it fairly if, we're fine breaking some covenants, but then we're going to go try and nitpick every other, neighbor and, resident on, they're missing a tree or missing a bush. Like, I get covenants. There's a point of them. It's for the people that are abusing it, that have they haven't mowed their lawn in, a month and it's getting out of control. Their weeds are, a foot tall. They painted their house pink. It's not so someone can go and say, hey, this person's missing a bush. This person's missing a tree. That person doesn't have enough, it's not painted the right shade of brown. That's not the point of covenant controls. And that's not what the community wants. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Director Gonzalez. And to everybody else joining this meeting, you'll note I did put a note, and if you didn't see it, kindly refrain from using the reactions as well. That it is something that we would prefer not to have the distraction of on the screen while directors are speaking. Directors in District 2, any additional comments from you, please?
If I can, David, this is Keith. Can you hear me?
Yes, Director Kaufman.
Sorry, I'm traveling, so we have a out-of-state volleyball tournament, so that's partly why I'm eating. We got in really late, but Dennis, I want to say thank you for the shout out about the budget planning document that we came up with. It was a lot of work, and I appreciate the recognition for that. Andy put in a ton of hours, and Jason did too as well. And we did try to collaborate with D1. We did have a discussion with Kris and Jim, and then it was radio silence after that. Not pointing fingers or anything. It really, it was a lot of work, but we did it. And I think in general, I think we're a little bit behind the power curve for D1 and D2 as we took over from Oakwood. Nobody's fault. I think it was just a situation of we didn't know what we didn't know. But then to you, David, question with regards, I'm getting hit up by the carriage homes, some folks in the carriage homes with not only the fence discussion, but also the best way for them to communicate either with you or I think it would be Oakwood, some of the grading in the way the yards come together. Some are higher than others. So water, one house, one person is doing sprinklers in their yard, and then the water runs right through the other person's backyard. So they're having a lot of flooding issues and stuff. we did have the one day that I notified you about where the sprinkler was just flooding because one of the valves, emergency valves, was open. But I think this is separate. Somebody reached out to me privately about that. So my suggestion to them was go to Oakwood because the houses are still pretty new. So that's should be something Oakwood should be fixing. But they're saying that the warranty company denied them or Oakwood denied it. So should they reach out to you guys for help, or should they be reaching out to Joan, our legal team, to try to fight with Oakwood on this? And that's really the only comments I have. So I appreciate everybody for being here.
That's a great question you ask. The answer is they may certainly reach out to me. The reality is we're probably not, as a district, going to be able to resolve the matter for them. If there are grading issues, that's not something that the district will get involved with. The bigger problem, and part of the reason we will need to have a D2 meeting with the carriage home owners, is to discuss the responsibility for the irrigation systems. With most of the irrigation controllers in people's backyards, but district landscaping in the front, we have to set those controllers to allow for sufficient water to be delivered to the front irrigation. In doing so, with the sprinkler heads that have been installed in most of the backyards, too much water is flowing into the backyards. So homeowners could change those sprinkler heads to a lower flow rate, and that would help to resolve that. But there's nothing the district can do to require that they change those heads. The problem is much more complicated than simply a grading issue or an irrigation issue. It has to all come together into one much larger picture. In the meantime, if they contact me, I can ask the landscapers to go out, take a look and see if we need to reset clocks or something else, or if this is a different issue and it's that issue that I was just referring to. Thank you, sir. District 2 directors, additional comments from you? Perfect. Well, then in order to keep my reputation strong with Dennis, I'm going to move along in the agenda.
Sorry, David.
Yes, Director Hubbs, my apology, please.
No, that's okay. I opened my mouth, so I figured I would just say it. All I want to say is thank you, everyone, for attending, and it's a privilege to be on this board, and I don't have anything different from my comments from last month. So thank you all again, all of you residents.
Thank you, Director Hobbs. One more time, I'll ask anybody else from District 2 who'd like to address the public or any of the comments, please let me know, directors. Directors, we're going to move back onto the agenda. We're going to mix it up a little bit, though, and we'll post that on the screen for everybody to see again. We are going to move some of the things out of order this evening, and it's just because we have certain consultants to the districts that rather than have them remain on the line at expense to the taxpayer, it would make more sense for us to allow for them to speak now. I do see Tana is on, Joan, but I'm going to ask Steve Dazio first as the district auditor since he's been waiting the longer period of time. Steve, I have for you, if you like, I have the audits both queued up. These are the revised audits to include the legal comments. So this is the most recent version of the audits. If you'd like me to share those on the screen, I'm happy to do so. You simply need to walk me through where you'd like to be, and we'll do that. I'm going to start with district number 1, though, sir.
You know that. You know that. I know.
Catherine, I'm going to mute you. Thank you. Steve, district number 1 is on the screen for you. And I believe you like to go through your report letter, correct?
That's correct. Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay?
Absolutely, Steve.
Very good. Okay, my name's Steve Dazio, and I'm the independent auditor for District 1 and number 2. And as David said, we'll start with the opinion letter for District number 1. In the first paragraph, it says what I did. and what we did. And the second one is the opinion paragraph. So what this says is the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a clean opinion, an unmodified opinion. It does mention in all material respects. What that means is that as an auditor, you don't look at 100% of transactions. You do samples. In the case of District 1 and District 2, the samples are quite large. In other words, I look at quite a few of the transactions that occurred in the district, but I didn't look at 100%. So that's why it's in all material respects is in there. Okay, and we'll go forward and keep going. The rest of this is pretty much boilerplate, but I will speak to the financial statements now. Excuse me. Governmental reporting is strange to a lot of people because it does not look at like corporate reporting or even not-for-profit reporting. And the main difference is governmental reporting has 2 balance sheets and 2 income statements. And the first balance sheet here is called the statement of net position. And what you'll see here that you will not see on the other balance sheet are capital assets and debt. Okay. On the statement of net position includes all the capital assets of the district, and you'll see the not being depreciated piece. And those are landscaping costs that have been incurred through the years. And then the net are other assets, and those essentially include some entryways and some parks that have been added. The other main difference is under liabilities, where you see non-current liabilities, and I know some of you have spoken to this already. The debt for District Number 1 is around $8 million, and we'll look into the details of that as we go forward. Now, one of the things you might notice on this balance sheet or statement of net position is you see a total net position as a negative number, and I don't want you to be concerned about that. It's very common for metropolitan districts such as yourselves to incur these large net position negatives. The reason is because the bonds and the debt that was issued, and right now in the balance of around 8 million, it purchased the water, the streets, a lot of the public infrastructure that the residents use. But that infrastructure then has been dedicated to the town or other entities, water and sewer districts. In your case, most of it's a town, for them to maintain. So the assets that those bonds built are out of your balance sheet or out of your statement of net position, but the debt remains, as you know. So that's why you see this a deficit in net position, but that is very common for metropolitan districts in the state of Colorado. And going forward, this is the first income statement. The next one before that, David. Just want to touch on that. It's just the income statement that's combined. And the reason I don't want to spend too much time on these combined statements is because it combines your general fund and your debt service fund into one kind of big statement. And a lot of times that can be a little misleading. Okay, so we'll go then to the next page, which is the second balance sheet. And this is one that you're more probably familiar with seeing. You have your general fund and your debt service fund. General fund, $140,000 in cash. Debt service around $386,000 in cash. And one thing I will note on here, we have the number accounts receivable developer, the $242,433, and that was part of the settlement agreement. The money came in 2025, but since the settlement agreement was reached in 2024, we went ahead with consultation with David, with SDMS, and the attorneys to go ahead and record that as of 12/31. So that's why we see that receivable on the balance sheet. You'll also see the number of property taxes receivable of 415,000. And that is another kind of a strange thing with governmental reporting, because those are the taxes, property taxes you're receiving in 2025. But since the levy was set in 2024, essentially December 15th, it becomes a legal receivable. And so we record that as a receivable in both the general and the debt service side. But then we see this deferred inflows of resources. So we kind of add it into the assets and then we pull it away. So it doesn't come into your fund balance until it's collected in the year 2025. So we see total fund balances of in the general fund of 363,000, 355,000 is unassigned or unrestricted. and the debt service fund has a balance of $387,000. All, of course, is restricted for the payment of the bonds. I'm going fairly quickly. Any questions thus far? Okay. For those of you who love numbers, and accountants love numbers, and who puts these statements together and forces us to do these statements are accountants. So we have a reconciliation between the two balance sheets, and that's what this is, and it shows the differences between the two right here. The next page is the second income statement. And here again, we see the general and debt service fund separated into its parts. Property taxes, specific ownership. We see the settlement funds there. And I will note the miscellaneous income that we see of $28,000. We may not see that again. That was the Senate Bill 22-238 property tax backfill that the state provided to many, or if not all, of the special districts and local governments in the state this year after what happened in the legislature at the end of 2023 to, I guess, affect the assessed valuations and the assessment ratios. So the state backfilled property taxes that were lost or considered to be lost during that process. So you brought in an extra $28,000 of backfill funds there. Okay, then we have expenditures, general and admin, and operations and maintenance. Net income of $363,000. And again, in the general fund, a big part of that is the settlement funds of the $240, but still a positive net change in fund balance. Going forward, this is a reconciliation between the two income statements. Again, accountants have to balance things and have to have reasons why. So we have this statement. So the next page is going to be your budget to actual for the general fund, and this is a little more detailed than the income statement we saw before. This shows the G&A and the O&M broken down into its individual parts. The one item there, transfer district number 4. Of course, we budgeted for almost $428,000. That was going to be the amount prior to terminating the IGA, which occurred in August. And so the $200,672 represents the monies collected in 2024 prior to that termination agreement that went to District 4. And at that point, the district retained the other revenues that came in from property taxes and such. Okay, any questions? Okay, then we get to the notes to the statements. Admittedly, a lot of this is boilerplate, but for the board members, especially new ones, I would suggest reading some of these notes at least once. It kind of goes through the history of how the district was formed, what its powers are. In this one, it goes a little farther and discusses the IGA between all the districts and some of the history, and goes on to the further paragraphs and mentions that the IGA was terminated. And then we get into the fund summary of significant accounting policies. For those of you who have trouble with insomnia, this will cure that. As we go forward, keep going. Again, a lot of this is boilerplate that doesn't really concern a lot of folks. We'll get into note 3 here shortly. And here we have cash and investments, note number 3. We have cash investments at the end of the year, $140,000. Or I'm sorry, in the statement of position, that's how it's broken out. But actual cash investments at the end of the year is around $3,000 in cash, investments of around $500,000. And the next page discusses what the investments are in, and that's in CSAFE, which is a local government investment pool. And there are a few in the state, CSAFE being one, Call Trust being another. And there's another one that's in place now as well, and the name escapes me. I apologize. And David, you may know the name of that. But many, I think if not all, municipalities, school districts, special districts invest in one of these local government investment pools, CSAFE or Call Trust. And they all invest in essentially AAA commercial paper or U.S. Treasuries. All very safe investments. CSAFE had a loss a very long time ago, but it hasn't had one in years. Call Trust never has. But the funds are all rated AAA by all the rating agencies. And so they are safe investments. The one thing that these investments will do is they value security and then liquidity and then yield in that order. So security is the number one purpose of these funds, and rate of return comes in third place after liquidity. Okay. Then we go forward, we have capital assets, and this breaks down some of the capital assets that the district has. Not a lot here. And the next note are your long-term obligations. And this is where you can really get into the details of the bonds that the district is servicing. Bond details shows you the interest rates, when the bonds are due, what pledged revenues there are, and it goes on for a few pages. And then we have the how the bonds will mature over the next to maturity in 2045. We talk about authorized debt, and I know there's been some discussions in other districts about these huge amounts of authorized debt that districts have. And if we go just a little bit farther down, David, it's kind of coming off the page there, but there we go. We've got $720 million in authorized debt, 710 after all the bonds have been issued, but you are limited to the amount of debt you can issue by your service plan, and that's in the next paragraph. So the districts combined were only authorized to do 60 mil in because of your service plan. So even though the election questions in that previous page authorize you to issue all of this debt, you're not actually authorized to go over the amount in your service plan, and that needs to be understood. Then we have note 8 in net position, talks about that first balance sheet and how that's broken out. And then we get into some of the agreements. Go up one page. Thank you. Discusses the settlement agreement and release. And this has been reviewed by your legal counsel, and I really appreciate their help with these notes, because some of these things are pretty complicated for an accountant like myself to get into the details. So I appreciate their help with all of this. But it does detail out the agreement. Then the next page has the IGA cost sharing agreement that was entered into in March of this year. We went ahead and put it in this document, even though it is 12/31/24. But I think we thought, and the attorney thought, it was important to put this in to make things clear of what the agreement is going forward. Okay. Note 8 talked about you being part of the special districts liability pool, which is very common for most metro districts in the state. And then note 9 is another footnote that is very common. You're going to look at almost any metropolitan district in the state, and you're going to see some kind of disclosure like this, talking about the Tabor election that was passed way back in 91 at this point. So then we have the supplementary information, debt service fund compared to budget, bond principal 245 and interest under budget in the fund, so there was no need to amend. And so the property taxes come in, you make the debt payments, so that this fund pretty much operates on its own. Next page just shows, for budgeting purposes, the debt maturity schedule through maturity. And the next page is just shows a history of assessed valuation and mill levies over the last several years. And this is something that's required because of your continuing disclosure agreement on the bonds. So we put that in the statement, so you don't have no one has to do a separate disclosure with the bond folks. Okay, any questions on District 1?
Directors for District 1, questions for Steve?
No questions for me, but thanks, Steve. I know you've done this for us for multiple years, so I deeply appreciate it. And the guide walking through this time was definitely much appreciated in years past. I know we've had our accounting team just get the report and give it to us, but thank you for taking the due diligence to walk us through.
You bet. And I will mention that a lot of times transitions don't go that well from accounting firms and management firms, and this one I think went really well. STMS, I've worked with them for a very long time. and they do great work, and it's a pleasure to work with them. So when I saw the transition from the previous firm to SDMS, I was, let's say, more than thrilled that it went that way.
We'll make sure Dave slips you a few extra ones your way.
Yeah. As
Directors for District 1, I believe there's a question in the clubhouse. Director Davis, is that correct?
It's Director Phileas using his mic. So
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to thank you as well, Steve, for the wonderful walkthrough. It was terrific.
Thank you.
Was very interested in hearing it, and I feel very reassured, and it looks really, really good. So thank you for all the work and offering this to us. Yeah, it's very clear to me. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, and thank you.
District 1 directors, if there are no additional questions on the audit, what I'd like to do is entertain a motion and a second to approve the 2024 audit and authorize execution of the representations letter. The representations letter, Director Davis, I will upload to the Dropbox sign, send you the link for that so that you can execute that electronically, and then Steve will be able to file the audit with the State Office of State Auditor, the OSA, the Colorado Office of State Auditor, as required under statute. And for all of those joining the meeting from the public this evening, that will also be then uploaded to the district's website. So you'll have the ability to look up the audit too. All of that said, directors, District 1, is there a motion and a second, please?
I make a motion.
Thank you, sir. And a second, please.
Second.
Either way.
I had Director Phileas on the second. Thank you. Are there any opposed? Steve, the nice thing is we're on to district number 2 now, but you've already taken the wind out of most of your sails. So we're going to skip right on. Well, I'll let you start off here so you can at least give the opinion portion, but we'll go through those charts a little bit quicker for you.
Yes, we will. My thoughts exactly. Again, the opinion letter is the same, just change the name. Clean opinion, unmodified opinion. Financial statements here, statement of position is the same. This one does not have capital assets at this time. May change with the tracks moving from District 4. We'll be working on that this year. The debt we see there about 20 million. And
Sorry to interrupt you. The capital assets. So the clubhouse is owned by both D1 and D2. Would that not be one of their capital assets if they're also joining?
Yeah, we're gonna. Well, yeah, I think the clubhouse. I was trying to think about that. If the clubhouse is still on D4 and that needs to be transferred over.
It has been transferred over. The deeds have been transferred over to D1 and D2.
But it happened in 2025. Right. So that is something, yeah, there's a lot of things that, like, yes, a lot of things that happened in 2025, a lot of things that were in 4 that are going to be moved over in SDMS. And if I continue as your auditor, will be, or SDMS is really going to have to take the lead on that and figure out how that gets allocated.
Okay.
Or if one district and maintains ownership of it and the other one just pays in for O&M, how you want to work that out. That is something probably to think about, because it might be a little odd to see half a clubhouse in District 1, half of it in District 2. But I think it's something that deserves some discussion.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, yeah, when I heard you said the capital assets, I'll go shuffling out of my corner.
Right. Okay, we'll go past this one and the next one and the balance sheet. Same thing. We have cash investments in general debt service. We see the accounts receivable developer. That's the 109,000 was in the settlement agreement. Property tax receivable, same thing. We end up with 123,000 or so in unassigned fund balance in the general fund. Debt service 1.2 million. And a couple pages next, we have the income statement, property taxes. Here again, Senate bill. The backfill property taxes in the amount of 9,600 was brought in miscellaneous income. We see there, we see the settlement funds. Debt service collects system development fees. at this point. In district number 2, where district number 1 did not have that. We also see the same kind of idea with transfer to district 4, the almost $142,000 that was transferred to district 4 prior to the settlement agreement, or not the settlement agreement, but the termination of the IGA, wherein district 2 then retained the rest of its funds. General fund compared to budget, same numbers, and the notes are essentially the same.
Well, I'm just going to stop as I go through so people can see. If you're looking through the audit and you're from district number 2, you're curious what your debt service schedule looks like. It shows up on this note, and it will also show up again as we get into the supplementary information. Here's your debt service fund, Steve, and then I'll show them that other AM schedule.
Right. Now, the one thing I will ask the question on District 2, and it may go to Joan, the attorney. In this current draft, we do not have the cost sharing agreement disclosed. Is that something we may want to add before we finalize the report? We just have the settlement agreement on the next page, where we've added the cost sharing agreement in the District 1 report. We do not have it here.
Let's go ahead and add it, and it's basically the same language as from the D1 audit.
Okay, I will copy that over and send you out, you and David, another draft, just so you can make sure I didn't make any mistakes on it. I appreciate that.
Sure.
I'll get that out to you later this evening.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you.
District 2 directors, questions on that audit for Steve?
Yes, as AD, I did have a question. I was a bit confused by your comments relative to the shared ownership of the clubhouse and pool. Legally, wouldn't it be 50-50 or some division of that on both statements?
And I think that's the question, that the attorneys will have to work out, and SDMS, how ownership wants to work on that. And accounting can be a little different from the legal ownership as well, how you account for something. But, you know, it can be administratively difficult just going forward. What happens, you know, if you have to put a new roof or a new AC unit or a new what have you, and then you're adding assets to both districts, where I'm just thinking it might make sense just from a practical standpoint to see if there was a way, and there may not be a way because of the legal restrictions, to be able to record the asset in one of the two districts. It's just an idea I want to float, but you're right, it may not be possible to be able to do that. And it may be one of those things that administratively that the accountants and everybody will have to deal with.
Director Matches, is that answer sufficient for you, sir?
Sort of.
It sounds as though we'll be doing some further study.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as long as it's not lost in the footnoting that is shared property.
I think it's in the cost sharing agreement too that was attached to both of those. When I was reading it, there was something in there.
Yeah, I thought the cost sharing was going to have something about it too.
Yeah, it does.
So our funding is under the cost sharing agreement, where basically through our IGA we fund the whole of it, but the ownership, I think, is the actual asset itself is
Right,
the piece that Steve is bringing up.
That's correct.
I personally, knowing just the spirit of how our districts work and how we are, and ensuring the longevity of no matter who sits on a board, that there's not anything that would cause issues. I would say a 50-50 split would make the most sense, even if it makes accounting a little bit harder. It keeps the spirit of what the community is, because we are one community, even though we're two boards. I think it makes sense to show both boards fully own that building, but it is going to make accounting be special. But this is next year's problem.
Yes.
Well, this
And that's
year.
okay.
And having read some of Steve's previous year's reports, I know that D2 bonds went to pay off a lot of that.
Yep, exactly.
So we have an investment in there too.
Exactly, yes, sir. And that's the part of the spirit I want to keep there. We will figure this out kind of as we keep going. But Steve, just in your mental back note or anything you want to email us, like both SDMS, the boards, and legal on recommendations or creative ideas, we'll definitely do it. But I can only speak for myself. I'm only one person on the board. But I do feel like just knowing a lot of the D2 board members, knowing the community, I do feel like having the ownership with both districts is kind of probably going to be the way that we want to continue forward. But any creative ideas or solutions you would want to shoot our way, we'll be happy to entertain as we prepare for what it looks like moving forward for us.
Of course.
Thank you, sir.
And the other piece of that would be dealing with the insurance pool and how they want to deal with that as well.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Directors in D2, additional questions for Steve? Hearing none, then I could entertain a motion to approve of the audit, authorize execution of the representations letter subject to final legal review, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Director Matthews, and a second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you, Director Gonzalez. Director Gonzalez, as I told Director Davis, I'll upload the rep's letter to a Dropbox sign for you to do an electronic execution. I'll upload that prior to Joan giving the final approval, and we'll just embargo release of that until after Joan has done the final review on the audit. Directors, before we let Steve go, are there any additional questions or comments for him? Steve, thank you, sir. Appreciate you joining this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Directors, we have somebody else joining. Again, I'm going to take the agenda out of order. Joan, I'll let you tee up Tana and make an introduction if you would be kind enough to do so, please.
Yes, so District number 2 engaged Independent Engineering Services, IDES, to act as, on behalf of the district, as the independent engineer that goes through all of the Oakwood documentation in the conveyance of public infrastructure to the district. They also do on-site inspections and provide a report to the district. So Tina is on the call today. She is our very diligent engineer who is going to give a general update on where we're at with Oakwood and a few of the problems she's encountered so far.
Thank you, Joan.
Okay.
And thank you all for having me at your meeting. So IDS was hired to do some reviews in the community. One of those is the Filing 18 Reserve Study. That was done by Timberline in May of 2025. So
Anna, can you give a little bit of background? They don't, I'm not sure everyone knows what where Filing 18 is.
Okay. Filing 18 is going to be the townhome area, which I believe is just south of the carriage homes. Am I correct? Okay. And the reserve study is for fee assessment for those new townhomes. I don't know, Joan, if you want to add more information to that.
So the proposed builder of the of townhome properties. I believe there will be 124 townhomes on filing 18, is looking to impose a fee for maintaining the property within that filing, the common property. So that it's similar to the way the carriage house fee structure is set up. And for filing 18, there's only one public street that goes through it. The rest of the streets are private tracks and may really end up being more like alleys. And then there's also kind of private sidewalks and landscaping within filing 18. So the home builder that has the property under contract, Trumark, requested that Timberline prepare a capital reserve study similar to the one that was done for the carriage homes to determine what a reasonable monthly fee is to cover the ongoing maintenance, as well as being able to set aside a reserve for major capital repair and replacement. And the Timberline report is much more streamlined than the one that was done for the carriage home properties. But it does include things like repair and replacement of concrete for those the alleyways. So that report was sent over to my office to approve sending the report to the town of Erie, requesting approval of a monthly maintenance fee in the same manner as the carriage house fee. So we sent that report over to Jana and her team to go through to make sure that we don't have the same type of problems that we're experiencing with the carriage houses.
Thank you, Jeff. You said that way better than I would have. Way more detail. Thank you. Yes, so we did look at the reserve study done by Timberline in May of 2025. So we did an initial review, and it was determined that there just wasn't enough backup information or documentation to really support what was in that. So that we did provide a response, and with that response, we did then get provided with much more backup information and some documentation that we needed to actually do a full detailed review. We have acquired all those things and have completed that review, and we're hoping to have that final response finalized and back to Joan tomorrow. Okay. And then moving on to tract review and district acquisition recommendations. And these are all the tracts in filing 11, 12, 14, 15, and 16 that we're looking at for primarily landscaping. Oakwood Homes did provide landscaping and irrigation plans for most of those tracts. They did not provide any civil plans. And we really like to be able to review civil plans for grading. You know, even though they're landscape tracks, looking at the grading is huge. Obviously, you guys all know from some of the issues with some of the lots that you have, being able to review that is huge. So we've had to do a records request to the town of Erie to hopefully come up with the civil plan so we can get those reviewed. We did already go out and do some site reviews, just to kind of speed this process up since we haven't received that documentation yet. We're hoping to have all of our site reviews done by the end of next week. And then hopefully by then we will have acquired the documents that we need to finish up this recommendation for the tract acquisitions or transfer to the district. We also looked at the French drain that was installed by Oakwood Homes behind the lots adjacent to, go ahead, John. Did you have something to add?
the parcel known as the slip and slide?
Yeah, for the slip and slide, yes. So we did look at that drain, and it appears to be functioning. It will need long-term maintenance. It is not, the drain does not appear to be sized to capture flows from precipitation events. What it looks like it was designed for and placed for is just to take any sump discharges or irrigation water off of the lots that are adjacent to that drain. So any precipitation events that happen, that drain is not sized to be able to obviously take that much water. So that will be a continued problem in that area. So any water flows will still collect in the low spot of that sidewalk. We will include a recommendation for that area in our final report, but only after we have reviewed the civil construction plans. All right. The other thing that we've asked to look at is the carriage homes, to do a review and a recommendation for those. I do believe that there's a plan to discuss all the related items for those areas with the carriage homes owners at a separate meeting. Do you want me to include any detailed information on that at this point, Joan, or wait for that separate meeting for the sake of everyone's time?
I'd like the community to be aware of what's going on, and for the D2 board and residents to understand what IDES is doing for the district and the problems they're encountering. If you want to give just maybe a very high level, your overall impression of what's going on with the carriage home.
Absolutely. Properties. Yeah, and I heard you guys talking a little bit about the irrigation. That is an issue. There's going to have to be a little bit more research done there. Oakwood Homes was unable to provide any sort of irrigation plans and said that the landscaper that installed it just installed them with a basic idea, and we're really unsure what that looks like. But really having a detailed knowledge plan of knowing how that system works is pretty important. So there's the irrigation. There's also the water services and sewer services that are located underneath the auto courts or the driveways. In the supplemental declaration of covenants, it does address those water services as far as maintenance and repair long-term, but it does not address the sewer services. We did note during the site visit, and again, we don't have the civil construction plans to verify exactly where everything is and what's supposed to be installed, but we did note that a couple of these auto courts or driveways do have sanitary sewer cleanouts, which it's pretty important to be able to access those to be able to maintain those sanitary services. So a bunch of them are missing. Again, until we can review those civil plans to confirm that for sure, they may have just been paved over with the paver drives. There's that. There is the settling and the drainage. So in review of the auto courts, it does appear that they were designed to take the drainage to like concentrate flows off of the lots into the driveways and then down the middle of these paved auto courts or paver auto courts. Not sure if that was the actual design or if they just did that to kind of make it work. There is a lot of areas where we have those concentrated flows coming right down the middle and even off of the yards that are now settling because of the amount of water that's there. So, we'll identify all those areas and put those in the report too. Another thing that we noted, there's quite a bit of sand out there, and that sand appears to be, and again, we've got the construction plans to determine this for sure, that looks like the subgrade of these pavers for these driveways. So what's happening with the amount of water that's coming down these driveways and being directed down the driveways, it's actually undermining and pushing some of the sand, which is the subgrade for those pavers out from under there, which is also an issue. Let me see what else we had. We talked about the irrigation. So those are pretty much the big issues with the carriage homes. Sorry, checking my notes.
Is there any recourse for the carriage home owners and us as a district with clearly faulty design?
And that's going to be part of our recommendation. There's going to be an element of punch list in there for Oakwood homes. And then that kind of gets into a Jones Court and legal matters as far as absolutely just not accepting these improvements until some corrections are made. If the design was approved by the town of Erie, it's really hard for us to say it was not designed correctly. If the grading wasn't done properly, or if the actual subgrade for these pavers wasn't done correctly, that's a whole nother issue. But again, we won't really know until we get those civil plans.
And then there are 2 warranties on top of this, which we may or may not have. There's the warranty between the builder and the district as a whole, but then Clayton Homes, Oakwood Homes has a warranty to the town as well. This is what came into effect for slip and fall, was even though we were out of our warranty for that piece, the town was able to execute their warranty to say, hey, you need to resolve this. So this might be a good part for D2 to partner up with the town attorney and figure out how we can use the town attorney to push Clayton Homes into resolution based upon what Tanya's report kind of shows as well. So, Joan, if you want to talk or help with that piece, let me know. I was for the slip and fall, like that, the town is who pushed on them on that piece. It wasn't us. So I can do what little bit I can to try and assist there and do connections. You're probably much better set than I am, but if need be, I can at least pull contacts of who helped on that side.
They're still building these carriage homes, and there's like 30 of them or so left in construction. Have they been approached about these design problems to prevent more design problems being added on?
As part of the settlement, right, Joan, we told them, hey, we weren't taking any of these because until a true warranty of deed and things on those lines were done, and pointing out the issues that we've seen in the current ones. So that was, doesn't mean they listened, but they have at least been alerted that we have concerns and issues, and this all came up during the settlement process.
Well, there's at least 15 on one street, and probably 8 more driveways on Sugarloaf that haven't been put in yet.
Yep, and the district, I can't remember wrong here, Joe, the district is not accepting any new driveways or pieces like that, correct, from Oakwood until the study's been done, or were we forced to accept? I don't remember how we were doing that for this add-on. I know we talked about not accepting, but I think we got forced into it, didn't we?
So the district hasn't accepted any of these improvements. I mean, that's what Tana is working on. But the reality is the way the covenants were set up is as soon as the improvements are in, that Oakwood on these supplemental covenants places the obligation on the Metro District to begin maintenance and operations as soon as the improvements are in, and using the carriage house fee revenue to to do that work. That's why the carriage house property has a separate contract with Neighborhood Landscapes. But that means Oakwood has almost no incentive to fix these issues. First of all, build them correctly and then fix the issues so that they're conveyed to the district, because the property owners are already maintaining them. So it's inconvenient for Oakwood, but it's not, there's not a lot of incentive for them to fix this to convey those over.
And it doesn't feel like it'd be something the district could kind of weigh in as much, other than informing and letting people know. But maybe it's something that residents could then take a class action suit against. Just be like, hey, this is you knew about this issue, you continue to build and push out this way, and have now escalated our maintenance cost X amount for your lack of diligence. But that might be, unfortunately, be something that the district can't lead, but residents could, through a class action, maybe have a better benefit and settlement process than the district as a single unit could.
Is there a way to stop further building of the ones that haven't been done yet? Like a cease letter or something until it can be rectified, so that they're not then, building the ones, that haven't been built incorrectly?
Well, that's another incentive for Oakwood to drag their feet in providing any kind of documentation.
Yeah, that's why they haven't provided it. We know that feeling.
Yeah, Dave and I will work with Tana and get a comprehensive, factual report about where things stand, and then we'll decide how we're going to approach Oakwood in the town and get it resolved as expeditiously as is possible with Oakwood.
Perfect. Thank you.
That's the hard part. Try not to drag this out too long.
Yep. Well, and they're incentivized to get it done as quickly as possible. So I'm sure we're stuck between a rock and a hard place no matter what option we take. But I say but I'm sure D2 will look forward to your reports and recommendations and moving forward.
Can't the town put any pressure on them to build correctly? Or do they go out and look to see how they're building it?
The town's really not concerned about anything that's not going to ultimately be theirs to own and maintain. I mean, they inspect it to the degree that it's built per whatever the approved plan was, the civil plans, and then past that, if it's a private improvement like that, it's not under the town's warranty or their eye.
All right. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Tana?
I think that was it. There was one other thing, and it's really not hugely important, but maybe one of you guys knows a little history on these driveways. It looks like that the ones that were built first were built without the concrete borders, and I don't know if you guys have looked at them that close. So some of them do not have these concrete borders that border the pavers, and then some of them do. So it looks like, and again, I'd like to see the plans and the design for these. It looks like they noticed that was an issue with some of the ones that were installed before, that not having those concrete borders allows those pavers to move more and separate, settle, all that kind of stuff. So maybe they did identify that, and then they corrected it by putting those concrete borders in. Again, I don't really know the history or the actual design there, but could be something. I did notice that there's a lot more settling going on in the ones that do not have those concrete borders, and to me it does look like those were one of the first ones that went in.
All right. Are there any questions for Tana?
I know you're saying you're going to get the reports, and I know this isn't my board, so I deeply apologize. You can tell me to shut up. But the fee study that's being collected and turned in, did you find with the recommendation from Timberline versus what you're going to recommend, were there major discrepancies between those two?
Nothing major. Some minor things, but nothing major.
Would you mind sharing what the proposed fee looks like?
We recommended it stay remotely the same as what Timberline said, and that was, correct me if I'm wrong, Joan, that was about $55 a month. But there's two clarifications that we need first before we finalize that fee recommendation. But it was close to that same total.
I'd rather not talk about that because it's not final. So
right.
We haven't approved it.
Well, and I guess the next question was going to be for D2, you, Joan, and D2 group. Is there any way to put that into its own bucket and not have the districts maintain and deal with that fee and process, but to have like a carriage home team deal with it that's owned by TrueMark and they run with it for X amount?
We're working on the best arrangement.
Thank you. I yelled as loud as I could to not have carriage home on D2, but it was owned by the builder at the time, so we got screwed there. Since we actually own this, I figured it'd be well worth it if we could push back and say no. This is outside the boundaries of what the district should be dealing with.
We're working with the builder, but
perfect.
Yeah. Thanks, Jake.
Go out of my corner again.
Okay.
Donna, sounds like that is it.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you, directors. I'm going to move us back now into our regularly scheduled programming. Back up on the agenda, Roman numeral 3, we have the minutes of the June 4th meeting for both districts. Those are included in your packets. Any questions, corrections, additions, changes, deletions, let me know. Otherwise, D1, I could entertain a motion to approve those as presented, please.
A motion.
Thank you. And a second then?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any opposed? D2. Is there a motion and a second from you for your minutes, please?
Sure. Were they fixed?
I have Director Gonzalez on the motion, and who was the second, please? I'm sorry.
I will.
Thank you very much, Director Matches. Any opposed? Directors, Financial Matters, you had in your packet the claims for both of the districts. Those, if there are any questions on, I'm happy to try to address for you, but if not, I could entertain a motion from D1 to ratify and or approve the payment of claims as shown in your packet.
I do have one question, David. When I was looking through them, I saw charges from Sal's Cleaning. I was under the impression we did not have a contract with them yet, and we're still investigating and looking for a contract for a cleaning service for the clubhouse.
It's my understanding that Sal's is still coming in after private events and doing cleaning after private events. I've not been instructed to do otherwise.
Okay. And then the pricing for private events, since it was going to both districts, seemed like it was pretty high. I'm just wondering what investigation went into the pricing for Sal's, like the review of the charges for that, since looks like it was $550 to both districts. I thought it was $125 per clean after a private event.
I don't know how many times they were dispatched out there, Director Manley. It's a question I can't answer. I apologize.
No problem. Yeah, it's just interested in that piece and the diligence of that piece side of it.
We can find out before we pay, or has this already been paid?
To my knowledge, these have been paid already. This is a ratification, but they were reviewed. But I don't believe we've released them yet. So if you tell me to hold something off, I can still hold off on it. I did tell KT not to release these until tomorrow.
Who's reviewing all of this? Is it just Christina and Jim, or who's reviewing the bills that are coming in and going out before they're paid?
For district number 1, it's Christine and Jim. For district number 2, it's Andy and Mitch.
Okay. Christine, do we have something invoicing from them showing that they had cleaned to warrant that payment?
Unmute.
That's
Unmuted.
unmuted.
Okay. We had an invoice from them that was scheduled for what they were doing, and we were to pay it.
Does the amount come to what it needs to be? Like, did they list out the dates they cleaned after events?
They did. I don't have it in front of me. I did not bring that.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure your eyes were on it to verify that it was correct.
Yes, we do see a copy of the bill and their itemization.
And then I guess my question is, so like I know when I was treasurer, I'd go back and review and look to see like what dates they say, what the contracts dated, things in those lines.
Mm-hmm.
What have you done to validate that they were actually there on those days and that these were necessary cleanings? Because like I said, I don't remember us having a contract for these.
Thank you.
So I guess that's one piece of it, because this
There
is saying
are-
that's
they
actually
are.
clubhouse cleaning as well. So 1,100
Yes.
split between the two.
So they're doing weekly cleaning, which was that clubhouse cleaning, and then
Yes. And then we had again.
and then the after party event cleanup. So if the people who okay, never mind. I just answered my own question. That was dumb. Got it.
What's the difference between after party clean and an event cleanup?
Pardon me?
So May 24th and May 26th, there's an after party clean and an event cleanup. What's the difference?
I think it's the same, Director Manley. It's just their terminology when they prepare. This is not Molly Maids with a single code for it. I think that this is just how they type their invoice.
No problem.
Like a birthday party or something, or like a baby shower or something that happened on those 2 days.
Yes.
Okay.
And that was Memorial Weekend. So, and the pool opening as well. So I'm not sure exactly what went on there. But those were the agreed amounts.
And those things too
High school
balance
graduation
themselves
parties.
out. Gotcha. And I'd say that's going to balance out because they charge those fees with the fees that we charge for the clubhouse. So technically it's not like we're paying that full amount because that's coming back with their deposit.
Yes, correct.
I can jump in on that. I was taking a look through the past minutes. We did look at the sales contract in the March joint meeting. The minutes do reflect that we didn't approve it then, and we went back for some updated scope from sales after that meeting. So it's likely that they're performing services under their prior agreement. We don't have an updated contract with them. Obviously, we do need somebody to clean after these events. So Dave, why don't I touch base with you tomorrow? We can figure out the best way to get this wrapped up.
Well, there's that piece, and then if we look at the dates, there's a May 22nd and May 23rd, a back-to-back, like regular $150 clubhouse clean. Was anything raised about the discrepancy? So why did they do back-to-back instead of weekly on that?
Right. Yeah, that we paid one more than we should because if that's a weekly clean, they charged one more than they should have.
They should have. That's correct. We'll look at that for sure.
Yeah, so I'm not okay with approving this until those are rectified because we literally paid extra one. Yeah, I would say hold off on paying it until that.
Yeah, this is just that piece I would mention about the due diligence, knowing what contracts are in place, knowing what's happening, and reviewing actually going through. But yeah.
Okay, so D1 Directors, what I would entertain then is a motion to approve and or ratify approval for the payment of claims with the exception of the invoice showing on the screen, which is the SALs for $1,100 total, $550 per district. And District 2, when we get to you for the same motion, I will exclude the same invoice, so I won't explain this to you again at that time.
Apologies, David. I do have one other question. I see a water extraction team doing business as property solutions team for pool maintenance. I know Julio's team. I know, like, with being on the pool committee, I'm deeply involved in a lot of pieces happening over there. I don't remember this happening. What was that invoice?
We had a break in a line that required a diver to go into the pool to repair that. And so that's what that invoice was for.
Okay. Not hear about that one. And then we got United Powers, mhtt.co. What is that one?
Pull that up for you. There we go. That was for the repair of the gym. There was the cable that was broken.
Okay. 310 split. Apologies, one other question. Am I missing more than the total? Looks like the total is 310, but the charge was 230. Is there more on that I'm missing? Okay, there we go. Appreciate you, my friend. Thank you. Sorry.
No problems, Director Manley.
And just quick question in public comment, Tony, Christine's husband, had said that she had found some savings. Was it with these billings or savings? What were those?
Director Filius had identified, very keen-eyed, I might add, the proposal as was originally presented in the tabs for landscape maintenance included from neighborhood lawn care, them doing the pet station cleanup. The contract itself, we attached the proposal as the exhibit in that contract. The proposal did not include that in the proposal. It took a bit of digging on Charlie's part because it actually was a separate and aside email between neighborhood lawn care and the district and Charlie actually. When Charlie said, just for clarification, are we including that in here? And neighborhood lawn care said yes. So Director Filius noted that it was not included on the contract that we had, and we were getting billed for that cleanup. She then, by noting that, we went back to neighborhood lawn care. Neighborhood lawn care is crediting back the amount that was paid incorrectly for last month and is removing that from future months. And the amount of that, I believe, would be $18,000 in total. And so I think that that's what Mr. Filius was referring to. Christine, does that sound correct to you?
That was a good description. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
And just to be clear, I just have a question about this. I know that Tony had commented on that, but my question is this. I don't discuss any of this stuff with my husband, so I'm wondering, is it okay that she's discussing this with Tony, or is this an issue? Because I was told that I'm not to share any information outside of the board. So I'm just concerned with that because he is a resident as well. I know he's her husband, but I don't share information with my husband. So I'm just asking that question for clarification.
It's a fair question you asked, Director Baca, and I'll give you what my take is. But of course, Jeff may have a slightly different twist, as sometimes occurs in these answers. We're not talking about privileged legal conversation. We're not talking about executive session discussions. And so I would not see a problem that would cause a concern. But Jeff, please correct that if I am wrong.
No, Dave, that's a fair way to describe it.
Perfect. That's just my question. I just want to know what I'm allowed to talk to my spouse about and what I'm not.
And
more venting than anything.
May I add one more thing? When we were going through our issues with Oakwood, I did not ever discuss or share anything with my husband about any of those negotiations, things that we heard, things we did. He always was elsewhere or gone when we had meetings, and I had to be home listening to things. So,
And Kris, that's no at all dive at you.
I'm not talking about you, Tony, but there was an accusation that I had shared things, and that was, I never was able to say I didn't because the person never called me back or talked to me. So I just wanted to clear it up now that I never ever shared. And yes, I have asked about some of these bills, thinking, am I crazy? Shouldn't this be here? How? And so yes, if I do not share privileged information, but sometimes I do discuss with him about how to deal with some of these other things that come up now and then. I just thank you.
And directors, your spouses are members of the public, and so you certainly, again, if it's not a privileged piece of your duty, it is certainly something that you may discuss with anybody in the community as you're out walking a dog. If you'd like to say, hey, you know, this, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? It is part of that outreach effort, and I'd hate to see spouses feel excluded from that discussion.
And the only thing I'm going to add to that, I forgot to put this in my public comment earlier, but you know, when it was brought up about my husband's cancer and his first and last name was dropped by Tony, please do not drop names. My husband is a business owner in this neighborhood, and it has dramatically affected the calls he's getting for work now because people think he can't do the job. Just so everybody knows, he is now cancer clean, woohoo, and he is able to work. So for those that are hesitant or whatever, please don't be. He is fully capable.
Thank you, Director Baca, and congratulations to your husband.
I want to throw us back on topic real quick. So looking at the ratification as well, I do see there's an Excel bill for the clubhouse. If I remember correctly, didn't we have other Excel lines as well, other than just the clubhouse, that should have been transferred over? Or was that the only one?
There's irrigation line that you see. This is the United Power. So there's a controller that's being run off of that account. This account is also an irrigation. It's a second irrigation controller. So there's electrical to that. Another irrigation controller, and then the clubhouse itself is this one.
I guess the Excel was the one I was looking at, the gas. I could have sworn we had one other location that for some reason was getting gas. I'll go back and look at past bills to see if they may have got missed on the transfer. Well, I'm probably completely wrong on it, but I thought we did have one more location.
Other than for the swimming pool, what else would you have a gas need for, Director Manley?
I could have sworn it's one of the outlets that we had something. Like I said, I'll go back and look. I'm probably completely wrong, but just noticing the one is, I could have sworn we had multiples in past, like pre D4 days. I'll do my due diligence on that, but I'm probably completely wrong.
This is the only one that's been submitted to us, but that does not mean it's the only one within the district. So if you do find something, please let us know. Similar to our problem with the internet service, the fiber being shut down without us knowing about it until the day before, it would sure be helpful if there is an issue to get that corrected with Excel in advance.
Yes, sir. And just share with the community on that one, another cost savings that we just recently did. Due to Oakwood's lack of due diligence, it was one of the bills that was never transferred to D1 and D2. So we've actually saved over $500 on internet billing, and was able to lower our monthly subscription for internet from $130 a month down to $50. So we're seeing a net gain on that piece pretty quickly. But yeah, that was a fun one to find out from our pool contractor. Hey, I can't access my my controllers. But yeah, small little wins and losses at the same time.
I will thank you, Director Manley, for all of your help jumping in very quickly to get that set up for us. Obviously, Charlie is able to do quite a bit, but every time he does something, it costs the district money. When you do it, you seem to do it without ever billing the district. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Directors D1 with the exclusion of Sal's in the amount of $1,100 until I get that resolved as to greater detail on each of those billings that you see there and match that up against either a contract for a rental or an explanation as to what was done. Is there a motion to ratify approval for the payment of those claims, please?
Motion.
Thank you, sir. And a second, please.
A second.
Thank you, ma'am. Any opposed? Directors for D2, same for you. If there are questions, let me know. Otherwise, you have the claims in the packet. I could entertain a motion in a second to ratify approval for the payment of those, please.
Yeah, I happen to be out of town, so I don't have my other screens. Can you run through the package or whatever?
I'd be happy to, Director Matches. Let me open that up for you.
Yeah. I I think my question on this screen is, since we're splitting between D1 and D2, what is down here is D2 portion of shared expense would have been on the D1 package. It's our share. At this point, a lot of this is going to go into the pool maintenance, irrigation, things that Keith and I would have put into the joint operating budget. You follow what I'm saying? When will
Yes,
that
sir.
when will that statement be prepared by Caitlin?
We were not planning to separate a expense and revenue statement for the fee and the shared revenues. It just flows through the general fund for both of the two districts.
Well, I think when you get to the D1 and D2 breakout, there's hardly anything in D1 or D2 for, you've got items here, pool maintenance,
So for
clubhouse,
the,
plumbing repairs.
so I think what Andy's referring to as the O&M is,
Yeah.
instead of having it be approved by both D1 and D2, the spirit of the IGA, the cost sharing agreement, is that it only comes out of D2 was funneling funds to D1. D1 is then approving O&M.
Yeah, but at
Understood.
this point, I don't believe we've transferred any funds, have we, to D1?
What we have, Director Matches, is we have a due to, due from, and when I go through the financials, you'll see we're accounting for all inter-district transfers through a line item called due to, due from. So
Okay.
if one district, at this point, District 2 owes District 1 a balance, and you'll see when we go through those financials. If I'm hearing you correctly, you would like to have all of those joint operating expenses paid by D2 with that amount
D1
being set up as a due from D1?
No, sir.
No, what I'm saying is that in a previous meeting, we came up with an operations and maintenance budget, general fund type budget for pool, clubhouse, all that together. We know we were going to share them, but yet, shouldn't we have some reporting against that budget that Keith and I put together?
So
Jason?
Andy, we haven't actually done a budget amendment yet to ratify that as the ongoing budget for the rest of 2025. So we should be technically doing a budget amendment to go through, say this is the net new process. We talked about it. We have it as a earmarked piece basically, but we haven't actually done a ratification to put that as the year's budget to then offset those fees. So right now we're still operating under the assumption of have to costs go to D1, have to costs go to D2. After the budget amendment side of it, then everything can ratify into, okay, the O&M will all come from D1, and then D2 is flowing its O&M portion to D1 to pay those bills. But I believe we have to do the budget amendment and hearing first.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but from a
Oh, yeah.
standpoint, how close did we estimate the OAM budget?
Yeah, this is going to make it hard to see the numbers as a whole because we have to know we have to double everything. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yep. So you want to see, so what he's looking for is like lifeguard cost is one of the items that was on this list. We want to see like the total lifeguard cost, not D1 lifeguard, D2 lifeguard, but total for that way when we do 2026, 2027, 2028 budget, we know what the total cost was, not the half and half cost. Hopefully that kind of flows. And
I mean,
I know
maybe
Let
I'll
me
just
think
print it
about
off
the
and I'll do it
accounting.
myself.
Let me think about the presentation for that, because you are going to have the breakout in the revenues. You'll see the different O&M fee per district flowing through as a revenue for each of the financials. For the joint expenses, obviously you can simply double those, but you're going to run, just by virtue of the number of homeowners, a deficit in one of the districts, because one district will by necessity pay more in total towards the half than the other will. So let me think about the best way on an accounting treatment side for that, Andy, and then you and I can certainly, if you come up with an idea on that, I'm happy to work with you on how best to present that without it appearing to be some type of a deficit scheme, if you will.
Yeah.
Additional questions on any of these claims, Director Matthews?
Is that the D1 or D2 list?
This is D2 on the screen, sir.
Okay.
If there are no additional questions, then I could entertain a motion to ratify approval for the payment of claims with the exception of that Sal's invoice, which we will hold out until further detail is provided to you directors for review.
I guess I'll move.
Thank you, sir. And a second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you, Director Toma. Are there any opposed? Directors, the financial statements, I'm going to pop those on the screen for you. You do have, as we've discussed in the past now, the most recent month end. I have district number 1 cash position on the screen for you. This shows as of 2 days ago when the month ended, where you guys are. Total operating funds, just a shade under 485,000. The debt service fund, just a little over 559,000. This does include the balance in the debt service fund after the interest payment was made June 1st. We have to pay half the interest June 1st, half the interest December 1st. So this is the balance remaining after that first interest payment of 2025 was made. Looking at the balance sheet for District 1, boy, I don't know how people are supposed to see. I can't even see it. I'm standing in front of the screen. Directors, as Steve was saying as he went through, really the only thing remarkable to point out to you on balance sheets is your property taxes receivable. We've received the bulk of what we would expect to receive. There'll still be a tail that we'll have to get over the next couple of months, but that's what you're seeing there. And there's no reason to believe that we would not receive 100% of the property taxes this year. Anything that was not received would just roll into next year, and we can see that the treasurer collects those next year when they do the assessments. For the income statement for district number 1, total revenues, keep in mind this left column for both districts is the same. Period actual is for the month of May. Year-to-date actual is the first 5 months of the year. Budget is based on the full 12 months, and then our variance and percentage is based on the full 12 months. This is not a pro rata share. So here we are, 5 months into the year. You've already received total revenues, 136% of what you budget. Don't get overly impressed by that, because really what I want to show you is these two lines here, the property tax and the SO tax. those are the real revenues to pay attention to.
Right.
And on those, we are probably going to come in a little bit less than you budgeted for SO tax, to be honest with you. Until Andy buys that Ferrari he was planning to purchase, those SO taxes are probably going to stay a little bit on the low side. We're seeing that across the board in districts. It's impossible to ever budget SO taxes correctly. And so generally speaking, and I didn't prepare your budget this year, but generally speaking, accountants will use a 6% of the property tax revenue and say, well, that's where SO taxes will come in. I tend to look at what the current year was when I make my forecast for the following year. So we'll probably end up seeing the budgeted amount go down a little bit for next year, but that's where we are on the revenue side. On the expense side, we are, I mentioned this to you last month, and I hate to say it to you, but we are over where we should be on management for District 1 and District 2. You're going to see the same when we look at your financials. I'm doing what I can to try to get this reduced. I will tell you, we're past a very busy time, which was the opening of the pool. There was a lot of work that had to get done in a very short order. I'm hoping things will settle back quite a bit. And at some point, both boards will want to talk about whether or not we need to meet as frequently as we do, because these meetings cost you a pretty good chunk of change. Jeff, Joan, and I all bill on an hourly basis. And if we don't have enough business that has to be conducted every 30 days, it might make sense to try to skip to 60 days or even 90 days as business needs dictate. I throw it out there. Don't need any conversation this evening, but I do want you to consider what the future may look like for you. On the O&M side for D1, landscaping, right where we would hope to be through the end of June. And then our ending fund balances, as I mentioned to you before, on the cash position statement, we are where we are. That is the general fund. The final fund is the debt service fund. And because this is through the end of May, does not include that June 1st payment for the bond interest. So that's why it does not appear on here. But we did pay $101,275, $101,275 on June 1st for your debt service. The other $101,275 plus this $250 will be paid on December 1st of this year. District 1, are there questions on the financials that I've presented to you?
Not on the financials as presented, but one piece, David, I was noticing, looking at numbers, the First Bank side of it, we're still being hit by bank fees from them. I know in the past I've always called to have them reverse those and work with us on that side of it from the First Bank side. Just wondering, have you guys continued that or had your relationship with First Bank rectified so that they stop charging us the fees for that piece of it? And what's being done to what bucket are those falling into?
Dr. Bentley, there shouldn't be fees. I'd have to take a look at a statement, which I don't customarily look at your bank statements, but there should not be fees being charged.
Yep. There was I can log in right now and take a look because I was just doing some due diligence to make sure things. But yeah, it looks like starting back in May, we started getting charged fees again. So taking a look, yeah, 630 activity charge of $22 on.
I don't need further detail beyond that. I'll make sure that gets resolved, and we'll see that there's a credit provided then.
Appreciate it.
For fees. Absolutely,
yeah.
Sir.
Yeah, there it looks like back around May is when it started back up with fees.
Okay. I'll ask KT to call them tomorrow.
No problem. Appreciate it. And if you need me to, just let me know and I can make it happen as well.
Oh, we have a lot of different banks, a lot of different districts working with First Bank, so this should not be an issue for us.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Additional questions, District 1 directors? Is there a motion to accept those financial statements and schedule a cash position as presented then, please?
Motion to
moved.
accept as presented.
I have Director Filius on the motion, Director Manley on the second. Are there any opposed? District number 2 directors, let me come over here for you. Your schedule of cash position as of June 30th. You were sitting operating funds 236,000, and in the debt service 1,660,000. I'm sorry, 1,660. Yeah, I had that right. I looked at it too quickly. Financial statements in the balance sheet, just like District 1, there's a property taxes receivable line item still sitting there. Same exact design as far as the income statement is concerned. Period actual and everything else is laid out the same. We are sitting at roughly the same amount of property tax and SO tax as the collections for District number 1, percentage-wise. I don't pay attention to interest income because I never budget with that as an important factor. On the expenditure side, as I mentioned to you, I am continuing to be concerned that district management's a little bit high. We don't show it all on here because at the time that these were prepared through the end of May, I was still working with Caitlin on getting that due to, due from settled out. It appears to be roughly $28,000 that D2 owes to D1, and we'll have to make that transfer to get that over to them.
Yeah, it's about 21,683 if the O&M is to be the same on both sides.
Director Matthews, you have this right at your fingertips.
Yeah, because I had a question why there weren't any numbers there.
That's the reason. Through May, she had not yet. We continue to work on how best to do this presentation. You'll see the June.
Right.
I believe we'll have everything set up correctly now. And then the debt in the debt. Well, that's the end of the general fund, and the debt service fund. We did pay that first half of the bond interest on June 1st. This is again showing May 31st, which is why it doesn't appear on there.
Yeah.
I'm happy to address questions in these financials, directors, but if there are none, I could also entertain a motion to accept these and the schedule of cash position as presented, please.
Was there more in your presentation coming down, or was that it?
That is
The last schedule?
no, there's the carriage homes. I'm sorry. You had asked about having a separate accounting for the carriage homes, Director Matches. Here is our year-to-date actual revenue from the carriage home fees, a little bit of interest income, and then our expenses are broken down based on the contract amount for the landscape maintenance and the carryover for snow removal from earlier this year. That's why you see snow, even though it's 100 degrees out.
Yeah, and Brightview is gone, correct?
Brightview is gone, though I have received emails, I think, from all 10 of you at this point, or all 9 of you, to say that they continue to be on site. I had Charlie call them last week and explain to them not only were they not to be on site anymore, but we would look at trespassing and we would look at damage assessments for any work that they did on the district property. Hopefully that got their attention. There was a reason I told you guys switch from Brightview. And this is why there's just a lack of leadership and a lack of continuity of management, and it makes it very difficult to work with them on large properties these days.
Yeah, I saw the email about they set the billing to 1207.
Highland Circle.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's an address that they use for some unknown reason. Are we collecting the funds from our carriage home residents?
We are. We have been billing that and we're collecting that. We did give through the end of July as a grace period since we did spring the expense on them rather quickly. And so that was the determination, I believe, working with the board. That was before my time, but I believe that that's what the board and Peggy had discussed.
All right, and the fee that Oakwood owes us?
For the carriage homes?
Yeah, was it what they getting billed monthly, and then when they close, then that money comes to us?
Correct.
So are we getting pretty good on that?
There's no way they can close without it. The title company won't allow it to close without holding back those funds at the closing.
All right, so, okay, so, all right, thank you.
Yes, sir. And then this is the old schedule of cash position at the very back, but I gave you the June, which is why I didn't go back here. Additional questions, D2 directors? If not, is there a motion then to accept that schedule of cash position in the financial statements, please?
I'll move.
Thank you, sir. And a second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you, Director Gonzalez. Any opposed? Directors, let's move down then, keeping up with the screen. The status on the pool repair project. Director Kaufman, I believe that you have been doing quite a bit of research to this point. Anything that you would care to share with the board this evening on what you're anticipating the off season at the pool to look like? And if not, no pressure. I didn't mention to you that I would ask you this, so.
The only thing I was researching was knowing that we had to do the concrete repair, the expected pool resurfacing repair in the next couple of years, and then heating and the heating repair and replacement. I started looking into some alternatives. One of those being a God, now I'm drawing a blank. Geothermal system. And I'll be honest, the quote I got back made me want to just crawl into a hole. So I don't think it's going to be feasible. It was well beyond anything I was expecting. So it's not really a realistic thing to discuss unless there's some other companies out there. But the first estimate I got was over $800,000 for a geothermal system. So I was like, yeah, no.
May I add something? Keith?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I just wanted to add some. This is Christine Filius. That since you had suggested that, obviously I kept thinking about it. Also happened to be talking to a geologist, and he said that this area is not known for high heat. I know we have some areas in Colorado that actually have warm springs and stuff. And he said Erie is not one of those places. So I'm sorry I never passed that on to you, but the expense is quite eye-opening too, isn't it? That's it.
Thank you, directors. If there's nothing else on that, I'm going to keep the meeting moving along. I'm going to go into operations matters. I have a couple of things I put on here, really more as informational items than I'm expecting any action. In fact, I would recommend the board not take any actions on some of these, but I want you to see what it is you're expecting to handle over the next couple of years. The first one is a proposal I requested from Neighborhood Lawn Care. I asked Hector to go through the community, and I have a separate map I can always pop up, but I don't think it's necessary for this meeting. I asked him to go through the community and provide a tree inventory to me. Look at the health of every tree on district tracks. Look at what needs to be replaced, what is likely dying and will have to be replaced over the short term, as well as what we might be able to do to keep trees healthy. All of that said, I'm going to scroll through a couple of different pages to show you what costs are for these different things. The first, I went too fast. First page you're looking at here is just fertilization and insect prevention pest spraying. And you're looking at almost $36,000 just for that basic service. Then I asked him to go through and tell me how many trees there were that would need to be replaced, keeping a 2-inch caliper on all of those trees. You see the numbers that are showing here. And the cost for that, you're looking at just over $90,000 to replace those trees that need to be replaced right now. On the native area, you have some additional trees within those native areas that throws another roughly 14,000 into the mix. So you're looking at this point, if my math was correct, I think I put this together about $125,000 just for tree maintenance and tree health initiatives. There were a couple of things that we have done, though, to try to stem the damage. Brightview did not unwrap the trees, so we have now unwrapped all of the trees. We've also taken down the staking on trees that were no longer needed to be staked because there was some bark damage that was starting to occur as well. So proactively, we've tried to take some steps to prevent additional tree death.
Can you put up your map of the native area? If not, that's okay too. But yeah, my biggest complaint about that native area is that, like you say, they wrapped the trees many years ago, never unwrapped them. They stopped watering that area at least 2 years ago. And most of those trees are disaster shape, except my own. My trees are behind in that because I wrapped them, unwrapped them, and water them. So my argument or my point of discussion would be on this issue. If you're not going to maintain the trees adequately, we just will be wasting money again. So, you know, and sometimes people have to take care of trees even if they're on their own, not on their own lot. So I don't know.
So Andy, is that parcel still owned by Oakwood?
No, I believe we accepted it. There
Okay.
was the partial that was between Acadia Circle and Blake's.
Okay.
But those trees back there died because Brightview or whoever did nothing for 2 or 3 years, including lack of water.
So I was going to say until after your next one, Dave, but to Andy's point, and then to conversations in the community, and then discussions I've had with Keith, that is a staggering number to say the least.
Yeah.
I know we received funds as part of the settlement group, and I do know that your next piece is to go over the mulch plan, which is also a staggering number. These boards earlier this year created the landscaping committee, but we have yet to sit anyone on it. So my recommendation is that we move forward with sitting members on the landscaping team that basically go through, review district pieces, come up with a 1, 3, 5, and 10-year plan, address our areas of highest needs, understand the budgeting necessary pieces of it, and actually give us both the short-term and long-term plan of how to address this, both with, well, yes, putting mulch on this for 50 grand is going to cover it up for maybe 2, 3 years at most. What can we do long-term to better utilize our funds and understand how to do this? Maybe it's remove mulch in small sections and replace it with other materials. Maybe it's changing out plant beds. but I think we need to have a strategic solution versus a band-aid on it. So that would be my recommendation is let's go ahead and get the joint D1, D2 landscaping teams kicked off. Let's engage that team to come up with a plan and then present its plans over the next couple of months and then work to identify and correct the hardest hit, most visible areas first, and then slowly roll out from there. We still need to keep things as a whole in mind. So it's not going to be, hey, we come up with a plan and it's all done. We know this is an ever evolving community, an ever evolving naturescape. So we do need to make sure that the team is prepared to kind of deal with that side of it. But I think that would do the better due diligence for the community and help us utilize dollars to long term serve us versus kind to just basically band-aid the issues that have been there for the beginning and not actually have a long-term solution. So that'd be where I'm at on this piece of it.
Director Manley, I think that would probably be a wise idea, not necessarily to approve any type of spending this year, but to put together a general phasing plan. I don't know that you even necessarily want to look at that tree list and say, well, we'll do these trees this year, those trees the following. And the reason is just a couple of years ago, we had a very early freeze in the fall, and that was followed by a very late freeze the following spring. Killed off lots and lots of trees throughout all of my districts. I had some districts with over $100,000 in trees that died just as a result of that late spring and early fall freeze. What happens is the moisture is still in the trunk, and so it freezes just under the bark and it kills the trees. So your plan's a great plan, but I do want to make sure the board understands that's kind of the best case scenario that Director Manley's talking about. You may also want to at least consider that there could be worse situations that arise, even though you have a good plan for phasing.
Exactly. One question I do have, David. I know these are commercial costs coming in with a landscaping company to come and do it, knowing that a lot of our residents are very, what can we do? How can we assist? Would there be anything precluding the districts from procuring pieces and then organizing a volunteer day, and we go through and as we make our plan and do things, as long as materials are provided or something along those lines and waivers as needed are collected and signed, would there be any reason we couldn't ever look at doing large volunteer days to focus on sections to repair and replace and having people work on that way versus actually having contracted services to do it?
There could be problems with that, but I would defer to Jeff and Joan to provide you better advice as to how they would view that type of neighborhood labor, if you will. And then we'd also have to work with the landscaper to see what the landscaper would tell you. But Jeff, I see you've come off of mute, so please.
Well, I was just going to jump in, Jason, on the volunteer days. That can be done. It is good to have the volunteers sign a waiver before they do that to just identify what they're doing and acknowledge the risks that they're doing physical labor and things like that. And then the special district property liability pool actually has little additional coverage that the district can get to cover volunteers also. I've talked to them before for other clients about that. It's super inexpensive. And then it provides some protection for the district when we do that. So I think the answer is it's possible. We just need to plan ahead a little bit.
Yep, no, perfect. Yeah, I'm just looking at ways to help control the costing. Doesn't mean people will do it. Doesn't mean that everyone wants to be involved, but just hearing the voice of our residents, I do feel like there would be many that would love to know that they can help. And if it was planned well and planned in advance and kept the district safe, I do think it could be a way that we could save the districts while still beautifying the areas.
Yeah, in my backyard, I have 3 trees all on the approved list and everything that were partially financed by the city of, by the town of Erie. They have a program that they'll partially pay for trees for residents, and I've done 3 trees that way. Is that program available to metro districts that are in Erie?
I don't know. We'd have to look into that. I honestly don't know, Director Matches.
Because the landscape, I use landscapers to do them. And half of their got paid.
I don't know, but in that case, the landscapers were getting paid by the town, is what you're telling me, correct?
Under a program of residents could get trees at a discounted price.
I don't know if districts would qualify. We'd have to look into that. The other item I've now put on the screen for you is that mulch, as Director Manley pointed out. What I would suggest with the winds that you typically have in Erie is that you look at a higher grade mulch, so a gorilla hair. But even gorilla hair, you're looking to have to replace every 5 to 6 years because of fading, because of rot. So this is just a snapshot in time to give you an idea of order of magnitude that you're going to have to deal with each year on landscaping.
The one thing I'll add too, just so you guys know, we ran a landscape company for several years. And the cost, it does look like it's really high. This does include the materials as well. And so it really is not that high. I know it looks like a huge number, but mulch is really, like, when you get it in that large of quantity, it's within range. I did a quick search while we were talking about this just to see, and it's not too far off. And so including the materials, it's not too bad. David, my question is trees, are we also talking about replacing the trees that are in the common area between the houses and the street, or is this just in the areas of like open space?
These are just district tracks, Director Baca. We're going to talk about those the private tree lawns here in just a couple of moments, though, on the agenda.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Not to derail or anything along those lines, I know I made the suggestion, but would it be okay if we made a motion to go ahead and seat the law committee and give it the direction to start working towards coming up with solutions on this piece of it?
You know, I was wanted to bring that up too, Jason. You know, the board's adopted the resolution creating the landscape committee and the pool and clubhouse committees a couple meetings ago.
Mm-hmm.
On each of those committees, there is an opening for a member of the public to join the committee and to be appointed by the boards of the district. So, you know, it wasn't on the agenda tonight to make the appointments. I certainly get the desire to get it rolling, but I'm wondering if it might be a good idea to, you know, get something posted on the webpage or get something out there that there's positions open on these committees for non-board members and get some interest, and then do all the appointments at the next meeting. Just a suggestion.
That works. I was just thinking to having the actual board members sit on the landscaping committee, just like we do on the pool committee, because we haven't done that piece. I know Keith, this is near and dear to his heart. I know for me, I'm hit up quite a bit by residents for landscaping issues, and it's something that Charlie and Travis have heard me quite a bit on. So, like, we're attuned to this. We just can't actually take action on it at the moment because we haven't actually set that committee. But add to your piece, the resident side of it as well. I would love to get the resident engagement on it, and maybe that is something that we do at the next one, is have a form that people would fill out, submit, and volunteer to be a part of it, and then have those committees make their recommendation, who, like the board members on those, make their recommendation who they would like to see join their ranks, and then do it at either next or the meeting after next.
I will include that on the next agenda, is to consider an appointment of residents to serve on the landscape committee and create a process. If you want to have an application process where they applied to the other directors already on that committee, we could certainly set it up however you like.
Perfect.
And just a point of technicality, we don't actually have anybody assigned to the pool committee either. The committee that we stood up for pool matters was specifically for the lifeguard, no lifeguards, and that was just a special, back in April. It wasn't till I think the May meeting where we actually said, okay, let's stand up a pool committee, clubhouse committee, and a landscaping committee, but we never assigned anybody to them. even though
We can
I've
certainly
been
look at that
on
in
the
the
pool
future.
committee,
Then
but
I
so
think
I don't
during the
think there's
budget
anything
hearing is a
official.
good time to. I think during the budget hearing is a good time to put that together because you're also considering then the budget for the following year. So you're allowing your committees to see what type of constraints they will or will not have to work underneath. So I would suggest that perhaps that's a natural fit at that time, which will be at the end of the year.
The only thing is some of these
Directors?
items can't wait till that time, correct? Like some of
No,
these.
these can all wait. You're not going to do any of this tree work or mulch work at this point, Director Baca, so it can all wait. I just wanted to show you how scary these numbers could look.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Directors, I'm going to continue on in the agenda. Letter C we put on there, but as I mentioned already, Director Filius has caught that and corrected neighborhood lawn care, and so we no longer need to have a separate contract for dog station maintenance, so we're going to skip C. We're into D and E. D and E are both district number 2 items. The directors of District 2, the question has come to us a number of times on covenant violation notices we send out regarding trees in that tree lawn. This is what Director Baca in District 1 had mentioned a moment ago. Those trees in tree lawns that are dead, many residents have said, listen, this was an Oakwood warranty item. We reported it to Oakwood. Oakwood has not taken care of it. And we don't think that we should have to be responsible for a warranty item that Oakwood should have covered. I mean, the cost, I can tell you, if you do it yourself, it's one price. But if you hire a landscaper to replace a 2-inch caliper tree, you're at least $800 and up to $1,200 to have a professional installation of a new tree. Right. The question has come then, is it something that the board of District 2 would like to require residents still to replace those trees? Or would you like to allow a waiver, an exemption for those who had warranty issues with Oakwood that were not satisfied by Oakwood? If they'd like to replace the trees, they may do so, but they're not required to do so. Up to you for discussion and how you'd like to proceed, District 2.
When I first moved in the second year, my tree in the front died in the tree lawn. Oakwood came out, what was it, Suzanne? They said, well, it's too early, we won't replace it. If any bit of green comes out of that tree, it's not going to be replaced. MSI, whoever it was, sent me a letter saying my tree is dead. If I don't replace it, it's a $50 fine, I don't know, per week, per month, something. I took that letter and used it against Oakwood to give me a new tree. So in some respects, you gotta send a nasty letter for them to have support to go against Oakwood. Because Oakwood isn't gonna replace the tree if it has one speck of green coming out at the bottom.
The other thing is Oakwood will replace, this happened to me and that's why I'm chiming in, but they will replace, in District 1, they replaced one tree if it died. If it died again, it was on the resident.
Yeah.
So it depends on how many trees have been put there, whose responsibility it is.
Yeah. And part of the problem is you need to wrap them. You need to wrap it, you need to unwrap it on time. You need to fertilize them. You know, sometimes the homeowner's got to take extra responsibility for trees.
Yes, and I will add my tree, I'm on my 4th tree in the front, and so I'm refusing to replace one, and it was down to 1 limb, and I literally cut everything off the bottom, stuck tons of fertilizer sticks in it, and if anybody comes by my house, it is now a beautiful, little smaller than everybody else, but it did come back. So that would be just a suggestion too for anybody who is having those issues with those trees to try that, because anybody who saw my pathetic tree in the beginning, they do come back if you treat them kindly.
Yeah, and I've also seen cases where you try, and the weather and the angle and the position is just not right.
So directors in District 2, the question before you is to create that exemption or not to create that exemption for Oakwood warranty not being fulfilled trees.
Yeah.
Is there a safety concern with having a dead tree on a sidewalk that it'll fall over or something like that? Any concerns like that?
I think what we would require as part of the exemption, Director Hobbs, would be that the homeowner remove the dead tree.
Gotcha.
Yeah, obviously it's very unsightly to have dead trees just sitting in a tree lawn. So something has to happen.
Yeah.
Either way, the removal of the dead tree needs to occur. The question is, does that then have to be replaced at the homeowner's expense for something that they believe was an Oakwood warranty item that went unfulfilled?
Okay, I have an issue with this. So if a tree's been planted by Oakwood and it dies and it's not replaced, and the homeowner's not responsible. If the tree does live for a couple years and then dies, that homeowner has to replace the tree, but the first homeowner didn't. I feel like there's a double standard. And I also want to mention, Andy said the town has a program for replacing trees. So I think the homeowners should look at that and see what they can do. The other issue is it isn't always the tree. Was it irrigated properly?
Right.
Is it one of these bad weather years? There's a lot of variables, but I have a concern with treating homeowners differently, different standards.
Well, and we're not going to know if people are buying a house, whether or not that first tree was replaced by Oakwood or already. Like, how are they going to know if they're a second or third or fourth owner, how many times that tree has been replaced?
Or not replaced in some cases.
So
The original owner took the tree out, a new homeowner doesn't know it.
yeah, I guess
Directors, District 1, let me ask District 2 to continue the discussion for a moment. District 2 directors, do you have a preference as to how you'd like to proceed or not proceed? Director Gonzalez, as president, I'll let you chime in to begin.
This is definitely one that I struggle with because as anyone that bought a home with Oakwood directly knows, it was not super easy working with Shazam, getting them to do anything. So it's like I hate to let Shazam not helping a homeowner out now fall and bite them. But I also understand where Joan is coming from, where how do you distinguish and differentiate people that okay, so someone went and replaced their tree, but now they're getting punished because they replaced planted a tree as opposed to Oakwood. So I totally get we're going there, but I also see the point of if we start going after every homeowner that has a dead tree or a missing tree, we are now putting substantially more resources towards something that like Allie was saying isn't really like a safety issue. And it's SDMS, you guys are gonna have to look into every single one of those follow up. So now we're spending a lot of resources on that when it could be going towards community. So what if we have some sort of temporary exemption period for we can work on I'm just spitballing ideas out here where maybe we can talk to one of the local tree farms and see if maybe they can become a preferred dealer with us and everything, and maybe they can have install programs and we give some sort of exemption period on anyone that does have dead trees while we find a solution. I mean, trying to think of it, just some sort of creative solution here to not necessarily punish everyone that has a dead tree because of Oakwood.
So Director Gonzalez, if you would like, I'd be happy to reach out to a couple of the tree farms, see if they would be willing to create a program like that and bring it back to you or to email the board before the next meeting to let you know what I find out.
Yeah, I know that well, and I think the double standard that I struggle with is it's right now we have a ton of dead trees on general properties that we're kind of pushing off, but now we're asking residents to go and replace their trees. So I think that's also a fine line that we have to look at. So I know that there's some local, 3M Farms is like a really popular one around here, where they normally have pretty good deals on trees, and they have some contractors that work directly with them. So maybe if we talk to them and just kind of figure out if they can do a deal for Erie Highlands residents, so kind of help anyone that was put in a bad situation, either by Oakwood or someone that just has a dead tree in general. Anyone that's Erie Highland residents, work with one of them. Maybe we can get a better deal and kind of give a grace period for the dead trees instead of starting to fine everyone and put in covenant complaints right away. Maybe we give a 1 or 2 year grace period while we're trying to find creative solutions for residents and cost savings options, and do something like that.
That's kind of what I was thinking is is there a way to send out like a warning essentially without charging people? Or I'm showing my ignorance here as a new board member, but I don't know the exact process for the covenant violations.
We do send out a warning, Director Hobbs, but customarily that is followed up by a second, and then we start assessing fines. But I'm hearing Director Gonzalez say he'd rather not be in the position of assessing fines. I can tell you the enforcement of this is very expensive. If we start going around and looking at every tree and then trying to track it, it does become a cumbersome expense to the district. Let's do this, directors. I'll table this until the next meeting. I'll find out what I can from the tree farms, come back to you and let you make a decision at that point as to how you'd like to direct us. We'll hold off on sending additional violation notices or warnings until we get this resolved by the board. Does that sound reasonable, Director Gonzalez?
Yep, I think, if any violations or complaints come in on dead trees, I think I would suggest DMS while we're figuring out the solution to table those.
And then apologies, David.
I would also,
No, Director Manley, I'm going to continue on this because we're going to be here too long.
Yes, sir. I was just
Directors,
search for tree farms, instead of having to pay SDMS, I can volunteer to take that task on to save the community money as well and bring that information back. So I'm just trying to offer to save money for the districts.
I'm fine with that. Director Gonzalez, is that fine with you?
Yeah, I can work with him. I've talked to a couple tree farms. So yeah, Jason and I can kind of work together to maybe try and figure out a creative solution for residents.
Even better.
Yep, I'm good with partnering up with him and us figuring out something for the residents.
I would also recommend following up with the town of Erie, and if there is a program where they do discounted trees, or Denver gives away free trees. So let's look into that as well.
Okay.
We can
look into the Erie Arbor Association. I know I've heard that name thrown around, so we can have that on our research list. So
just keep in mind, please, if you're looking to replace trees that are meeting the covenants do require they be a 2-inch caliper. So if the town is offering trees, but they're not 2-inch caliper, then you're going to face that question as your next question. Director Toma, I apologize. I interrupted you.
Oh, you're okay. I was just curious sitting here based off Andy's comment of, having the town help potentially, but they do have an HOA tree cost share. I know that's not what we are, but it's a program where the town pays half and the HOA pays half. There is a maximum of 15K on it, but it's worth exploring if we could get some of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
The risk to that, though, as you talk to them, please make sure they understand these are in private tree lawns. These are not on district tracks. If you're going to look for a partnership program like that, the district could not make the payment for half on the private lawns.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of a little bit more towards the ones that are in the shared spaces and parks and things like that.
And
Probably
that
more
makes
applicable
sense. That would
David,
make
can you
sense.
David, can you share with us through email or however the addresses of those houses for those trees that your landscape people went out and noticed that the trees need to be replaced? Could you share that with us so we know what houses they are?
These are not the houses. The landscape people that we're talking about, that proposal I showed you is on district tracks. These aren't residences. On the residences, we have the violation notice, and I believe that I've sent that out.
I have that. Yep,
last
I have a
month.
copy.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Directors, next item on the agenda under letter E for district number 2 to discuss and consider is if you would like, and this came up during the public comments as well, if you would like SDMS to try to enforce town of Erie rules, covenants on the town of Erie roads within the district. It is my belief, and I believe that Joan and Jeff share this with me, that contrary to what you heard earlier, the district does not have the legal authority to enforce town of Erie regulations on on the public roads, which are the roads throughout the district. At the time the bylaws were written, those were written before these roads were conveyed to the town of Erie. So those might have been enforceable at that time. But once those are conveyed, you no longer maintain the legal authority, in my experience. I'm not an attorney, and so I will open it to Jeff and Joan to correct me if I'm wrong. But if I'm not wrong, the question is, do you want us to still make attempts to send violation notices to people at district expense doing so, or should we let that go, is the question to you.
I am for letting it go. That is not our job, and quite frankly, we have a lot of other things we need to pay for, and I am not okay with sending letters and inquiring that additional cost when there's nothing we can do to make them move or do whatever they need to do with those vehicles.
District 2 directors, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate the input, Tony, and everything. I agree 100%. They're owned by the city. For us to try and enforce Metro District rules on city-owned streets, to me, just seems like a total waste of time, resources, and funds. So, no, I do not want SDMS to issue violations for anything on the roads.
It's very inefficient for us to even attempt to, because if Travis is in the community once every 2 weeks and he notices something that would be a violation, it's not cost effective for him to go up there 72 hours after that letter would be received to do another inspection. So I would certainly recommend you have covenants, but not all covenants need to be enforced with equal vigor. It's the same way when the town of Erie has a jaywalking requirement in the code, and yet that's not one that they'll enforce very frequently. So I would suggest, unless there is a burning desire on the part of District 2 to have us do this, I'll ask for a motion. If there's no motion, then we'll reflect in the minutes that no motion was made, and this is not something that we'll worry about. Directors, District 2, is there a motion to be made to have us enforce Town of Erie's traffic code within the community? Hearing none, we'll move into legal matters. Joan, I have on the screen, first item is the settlement agreement. I included in the board packets your memo. Anything additional or any highlights you'd like to provide on that?
Just one comment. All we have left is we're waiting for the orders from the district court, excluding the Erie rights of way from District 2. As soon as we receive that, we will record the certified orders for both the Oakwood property and the town property. And that those are the last remaining items under the settlement agreement action items.
Joan, did the settlement agreement call for Oakwood or D4 or CLA to send accounting records, contracts, things that we might need? And have they been received?
Yes. We have, we've received all of those, including the last thing to come over, I believe, was the Carriage House accounting records.
Okay.
But we have all the contracts, documentation from not only Oakwood and D4, but also Timberline and the company that did covenant enforcement.
Yeah, MSI, I think. Or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. And so SCMS would now have access to that.
Correct.
If they don't,
needed it.
either, yeah, Jeff or I would have any documents they don't have.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jeff, letter B is one that your office prepared. Would you like to provide an overview of that? That was also included in the board packets that the directors have seen.
Yeah, so the next item is consider adoption of a resolution that would adopt a video surveillance camera policy. So I know this got brought up earlier in the meeting and obviously is connected to some other items in the community. But as of now, in other records that I have for the district, there is no policy in place regarding the use of district video camera surveillance equipment in the clubhouse. So what this resolution would do would actually adopt a policy for the district. And, you know, I'd say overall it's important to have something in place that says what the camera is and isn't for. So if you guys will just give me a couple of minutes, I'll kind of shoot through the general concepts that are outlined in here. And then of course, it's up to the board, the boards, because this would be a joint resolution because it's a jointly owned building. And, you know, if you guys want to make changes or tweaks to it, of course, that can all be done before the resolution is adopted, if it's adopted at all. But generally speaking, what this resolution would say is that this is the district's system, and the purpose of the system is to allow the district to inspect, do investigation regarding crimes or violations of its rules against, or crimes committed against property, residents, or people at the clubhouse, right? So it's the district's equipment to monitor somebody coming and destroying district furniture or breaking equipment in the clubhouse or breaking into our facility after hours. That's the purpose of the video equipment that the district has. Then it says that really only the district will have access to this. It'll largely be managed by district management. The recordings are only kept for 14 days is the current time in here. And if there's no crime or no issue, then they're going to be recorded over. However, that would practically work for a digital recording system. It also talks about release of the footage, right? Because this footage is here for the district's benefit, and you want to be careful as a board about releasing the video recordings for other reasons, right? So this says this is really only used for district business, or if it's otherwise subject to a subpoena or some other item that we get that says we have to turn over the videos, versus anybody in the neighborhood asking for a copy of the video that happened 2 nights ago at the clubhouse because they think something happened that they want a video of that they think their spouse did, or something that might have happened that they want some evidence of. So try to limit that through the policy. And then in the end, put up signs. I think those may already be up, you know, notifying people that there is a video system and that the district is doing this for its own benefit. And we're not guaranteeing that we have this working at all times, and having it up does not guarantee that, you know, the whole facility is free of any crime or any other issues that might happen. So that's the big summary of this. There's a piece in here that's not in the version in your packet that is also about audio. When I put this together, I wasn't 100% sure if there was video and audio, but it sounds like there's definitely audio. So we would need to make some tweaks to this anyway to talk about audio recordings to make sure that that is also noted in the signs that are posted in the clubhouse, and or district could always choose to turn off audio and just do video, or vice versa. So that is what's in your packet and is up there for the board to discuss and consider.
So I do have a couple of remarks in it, Jeff, and just mainly because I am the one that's been running security for the clubhouse for years and working with the current management company and previous management companies. So I noticed section 2B says the system is not monitored on a live, continuous, real-time basis. That is something that we absolutely need to be able to do. There are many times that people will help defense, come in after hours, things of those lines. We need to be able to see that at the time, detect the presence of someone there after hours, issue live audio alerts. We had the ability to push alerts through the speaker, so I've given that both to Charlie and Travis through tools that we utilize over the Sonos speakers. We also use it to deter people, so to say, hey, you shouldn't be in this area, things of those lines. So the viewing, the live viewing is something that is a must-have and should not be rolled out by policy. Also, we needed to alert law enforcement. So that was under 2B, the original one you sent. I don't know if you updated and changed it.
I haven't made any changes to the policy yet. But is that what you're asking? But looking at that one, I mean, maybe it's some clarity there. I mean, I read that section to say we don't have somebody posted in front of a TV monitor watching the feed at all times. That is what 2B is supposed to mean.
Okay,
But
so it doesn't
sounds like you're
preclude.
reading that differently. So
I'm reading
probably
this
worth
that
some
we
clarification.
Yeah, I'm reading it that we cannot look at the feed at a live time. It's the way that I read that.
Okay.
So there's that one.
We want to be cautious, Director Manley, I think is what Jeff is saying, is of creating the appearance that there is a security service monitoring these cameras on real-time basis, full-time.
And I guess we shouldn't preclude ourselves from that in the future. I know in previous meetings, the option of getting rid of lifeguards was to hire a security service to sit there and watch the cameras full time. And that was one of the proposals done by a director that's no longer with us. So if we have a policy, that means we have to go back and modify that policy if we next year do decide to bring in that security service versus lifeguards. Just throwing out there of things to be proactive and ensure. I understand your reasoning, Jeff. I just want to make sure that we're not limiting ourselves from future growth in that side of it. The other section, 3A, for notice of incidents, I would change it from must be made in writing to may be made in writing. And I kind of gave you, Jeff, and Davis information around this. As the community knows, a lot of the community know, I'm a wealth of information. I try to be of a service to our community. The amount of times I've been asked, hey, can you go back and look at the camera and see if I left my purse, or who grabbed this or who grabbed that? This is something that is a service that we like to do, or I say I'll do for the community, to avoid having to pay the cost of district management to go in, scrub video, find it, and let that people know that. It's just a good piece to kind of have in there. So I wouldn't restrict us to only releasing video through district, like through SDMS or who the management at the time is, but have it at a discretion to where if it is something non-incidental where someone's looking for information or to know, hey, who grabbed my pool floaty or who grabbed my life jacket? Can you tell me who did XYZ? We kind of have that as an ability, but we're not being charged a fee to support our residents. So
I couldn't do it, Director Manley, because I don't know who people are in the community. So if somebody called and said, who grabbed my purse, I wouldn't know. But if they had a subpoena, I could certainly turn that over to the police and they could research that.
Yeah, one of the most recent ones is it was children having a disagreement, and so I was able to give the camera to send a picture to the other parent of, hey, this is who you and your son was having an argument with, basically, and the mother reached out in that piece. But it versus having to go through and request it from SDMS, having that to be able to support our residents, I think is also something key, because our residents want to know what is actually happening at times. That's the other piece I'll bring up on 3A. 3B, release of the video. So this is one where if you go back and look at our feed, a lot of times we are using this to identify people. There's been incidents where kids have ridden their bikes through the front entryway and caused issues with the tables and gym and stuff like that. we use the neighborhood Facebook page both to identify and hold accountable when things like that kind of happen as a mechanism. And we've actually had a teacher of those kids step up and let us know who they were so we could get in contact with the parents and resolve those issues. So I think that might be the other piece we kind of look at adjusting is we are a small community. The community likes to be updated. The community wants to know what's happening. The community wants to ensure that there's resolutions to things without having to involve law enforcement at times. It's not to pick on or anything along those lines. We had issues in the years past where people were letting their dogs run on the mat, the tarp of the pool, and causing holes in it. We're able to post that, and having that public posting also allows people to be deterred from continually causing issues. Would be my piece of it. So that'd be another piece I would look at modifying in this policy before adoption. But from my review of those, I agree there should be a policy for this. Currently, it's been SDM or Timberline and myself. Now it's SDMS and myself with access to the NVR. But I do believe this policy needs to be tweaked and not adopted in its current state because it doesn't support how we're actually supporting the community at the moment.
Director Baca, let me ask you, because you would be the pivotal vote. We're going to short circuit the time for all the discussion this evening. You've heard what Director Manley just said. You've had a chance to look at the resolution. For this evening, are you in a position where you would feel comfortable voting for that resolution as it's in the package?
No, I would not.
Okay.
I am a firm believer of real time, and I think that this has been a very valuable tool for this community for several years. The incident that has caused all of this at hand was very unfortunate, but it has saved this community thousands and thousands of dollars, and I have no problem that Jason wants to do this and he doesn't charge us anything for it, and I appreciate it. So no, I do not.
Thank you. Then we're not going to belabor this discussion, directors, because it's not something that would pass this evening. We'll bring it up in a future agenda. If directors would like to make a direction to Jeff or to Joan to work on coming back with another version, we can certainly have that done, but it is not something that would pass this evening. Directors, back on the agenda then, letter C would be to acknowledge the resignation of Sam from the board of District 1 effective June 17th and consider the appointment of a secretary. As you know, because I sent out to all of you, we did receive a resignation from Sam from the board. We certainly thanked him, and I believe a number of you also did, thanked him for his years of service to the community. And we appreciated all of his work, especially during those discussions with Oakwood, but he's chosen to move on. And so we now have a vacancy on the board, and we have a vacancy in the position of secretary, which is what Sam had been serving in the capacity of. Directors for District 1, I'm happy to step in and serve as your unelected or recording secretary if you would like me to do that. Otherwise, if you have somebody you'd like to nominate for that purpose, we certainly could set that up as well.
So I would like to suggest, David, that you do take that position. I don't think D1 is in a position to select from among the members that are here, and we will work it out. So if you could serve as secretary temporarily, I would move that be the case.
Thank you, Director Filius. I'll take that as a motion. Is there a second to that motion, please?
So I actually have a different motion to put on the board, and that would be to have Tony Baca serve as
There's a motion. There's a motion on the
table. As a point of order, Director Manley, stand by while I see if there is a second to Director Filius's motion, please.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Now we can have discussion. Director Manley, you had a comment before a call for a vote is made.
Correct. I was going to say nominate Tony into that position, knowing that the role of secretary requires signing of documents and pieces on those lines. the additional cost to the community doesn't, I know it wouldn't be much, but it would still be additional cost to have you kind of participate on that piece, adding those extra roles and responsibilities to your current side of it. I don't feel are in there. Plus, we are a community board. It should be maintained and set by the community as a whole, is what I would say. So yeah, I would recommend that we actually have Tony Baca take that position.
Director Baca, do you have any comments?
I'm happy to move into that position if that's what the board wants us to do. I agree, like we're trying to cut back on costs. I know that Jim and Christina are feeling uneasy, but I want you both to know that I am here to do what is best for this community. I don't partner or side with anybody. I side with everybody who lives around me and who lives in this community. And so I'm not going to favor one side or the other. I'm here to do a job for this community, and that's the job that I would do.
And Directors Manley and Baca, let me, just for your edification, any documents that I sign, it would be the same amount of time for me to upload and sign myself versus upload and send you, either of you, an email to have you sign. So it certainly is not a greater expense anyway. I don't have a preference. I'm happy to do whatever the board wants, but it would not increase the expense to the district anyway. So I have a motion and a second on the floor, and that would be to appoint me as the secretary. There will be a vote on that in just a moment, but for those who made the motion and the second, I also want to point out to you, there is a second motion that I think would be made in a separate second on that other motion. So when I call for the vote on this first motion, and I will do that in just a moment, bear in mind, if this fails, there is another option. Directors, this was presented as me as your secretary. Director Filius moved. Director Davis seconded. All in favor, please, and we'll do it as a roll call vote. Director Davis?
Yes.
Director Filius?
Yes.
Director Manley?
No.
And Director Baca?
No.
Fair enough. Let me do this. We will get this next motion then. Director Manley, did you have a motion you wanted to make?
Yes, my motion is to set Tony Baca as secretary.
Is there a second to that?
Can I second myself, or is that not
You
allowed?
certainly may.
All
You
right, then I'll
certainly may.
second that.
I have a proper motion, a proper second. Is there any discussion on this motion and second? If not, then we'll call the same roll call vote, same order. Director Davis?
No.
Director Filius?
No.
So I
Director
guess,
Manley?
yes.
And Director Baca?
Yes.
All right, so we have 2 yeses, 2 nos. This motion fails as well. We'll continue with a vacant secretary. Under statute, all I'm required to have is a president and a treasurer. We will continue to operate as assistants with assistant secretaries serving in the capacity as secretary as needed. So if we do need documents to be executed as a secretary, Director Baca, Director Manley, we will send those out to you for signature.
If I could jump in, the board does need to have a secretary, but obviously we tried to vote and it didn't pass. So it will need to be on the agenda again next month.
And we will have that next agenda, Jeff.
But the board is required to have a chairperson and a treasurer who have to be board members. Plus, you have to have a secretary who may be a board member, but doesn't have to be. Those are
So
the
just to
requirements.
clarify, we will be incurring costs every time that we have to vote for the secretary, because that does add time for all the management, all the legal on here. So yes, there is an additional cost if we have to continue to have this as an agenda item.
So my question is, Jim and Christine, I'm already assistant secretary. So I want to know what your issue is with me moving into that position.
I would just like to wait for a little bit. I mean, D1 has some mending to do with relationships and such. It's quite possible.
So
it's personal, not logical.
That's
You
not yet.
said you were.
Yeah, it sounds like a
you were-
personal decision, but
You want to
Well-
work with the community. We have board members that are willing to step in the role. So, what is your rationale for not wanting to have
I'd like
those
to wait
personnel?
for the moment. I know that there have been vacancies before, and David has said that SDMS can do it with very little cost, and I believe they put the minutes together.
So you
anyway.
much rather have someone that's not in the community serve in a role that is a community position.
Will last forever. I am saying that at the moment, I'm not ready to support this.
Okay, I'm just asking for clarification there, Kris. So I'm asking, we have a community member for a community board position that is willing to serve in this role as secretary, and you do
Yes.
not want that person to serve in this position. You would much rather have an external person that's not part of the community serve in there
For now.
for now. All right.
And can
then
I
Jim,
can I just
what
find
is-
out what Jim's reasoning is? I would like to personally know.
The same thing. I think we need to post the opening, just like we're doing the openings for the committees.
This,
Get a person on and then fill the position.
this isn't the posting to fill the open board position. This is to fill the secretary role, not the board position.
I answered the question, Jason.
All right. All right. So there's that piece of it. Then I'm going to make a second motion as well. And to backfill the open board position that exists, I would like to make the recommendation, since this is a board that needs to stay focused on the community, what I would like to recommend is that a team of Tony Baca and a D2 representative are assigned to interview and work with the community, get recommendations of who wants to be a part of the D1 board, make that recommendation, and then have it accepted by the D1 board to fill the vacant position and set the fifth board member.
Director Manley, that would not be a proper motion, unfortunately, because we can't have that involvement from D2. This is a D1 vacancy. D2 has every right, First Amendment wise, to provide an opinion to you, but they can't be part of a review committee or an interview committee or a recommendation committee, and they certainly couldn't bind the hands of D1 by saying this is who you'll need to accept.
So can I do this on my own to fill that position? And the reason I'm throwing this out here is there's obviously something between Jim, Jason, and Christine. And whether Jim and Christine believe this or not, I speak for myself. I have my own brain and no one is going to push me in one direction or the other. But I do not want to continue to waste money on this. I would like to get this position filled with somebody who can take that role and get this community going in the right direction. And so I'm happy to do it alone. If that
Directors,
is,
let me tell you, I work with a lot of different districts, and very few districts actually have 5 directors. It's not unusual to have. I have some districts where I have 1 director on a board. I have one right now with 1 director. I have one with 2 directors. And one of those is about to sell his house and move out. It's not unusual. I would suggest even discussion on how to fill a vacancy is so premature. You can't amongst yourselves decide who should be the secretary. The last thing you're going to do is agree on who will come onto the board. And you can't, as a board, assign that to one person to be able to make that decision on behalf of the rest of the board. So I think you're way ahead of yourselves even discussing how to fill a vacancy. Until you can come to agreements on other topics, this is beyond what will ever be on an agenda for you to look at.
unfortunately, it's very sad. I'm very disappointed in our board right now. And you know, we're all adults, so let's start acting like adults.
Yeah, and Kris and Jim, you guys you're just showing how tone deaf you are from the needs of the community. I mean, you have 2 assistant secretaries already on the board, put one in the position and knock it off. This is just beyond childish. You guys are just showing how tone deaf you really, truly are. The last 2 meetings, over an hour from the community telling you how tone deaf you are, and you're just proving their point. This is absurd.
I'm concerned if we don't walk away from here with some kind of a plan for filling the vacancy, if we keep it with just 2 and 2 or a group of 4, like it's 2 versus 2 on every freaking item and nothing will ever get passed.
I don't think we.
I think to that point, Liz, I know that there are many D1 residents that are pursuing a recall, as has been mentioned multiple times. So it might, as you mentioned, if this doesn't get set, I think after the recall election goes through, which will be a cost to the community to actually execute that recall election, it'll become a board of 4 still, but that 4th person will actually be elected into the community and probably be someone that is here to actually support and serve the districts. And I think at that point in time, it will kind of go there. But unfortunately, it is going to hamper and hold the community back until that recall is able to be completed, unless Jim Davis or Kris actually go through and resign from their positions. They've proven that they don't want to work together as a community. They've proven that they don't want to work with Tony or I. But unfortunately, due to the structure of boards, there's nothing that can be done. All Tony and I can do is continue to support the best will of the community and allow the community to operate its recall side of it.
Which I'm still very unclear as to why I am being grouped into this as far as picking one side or the other. So that's a conversation that I would love to have with Jim and Christine, and we can't do it together because that forms a meeting, but I would like to know what you feel that I'm not capable of doing, because I'm dumbfounded. Like, I've been part of this community since 2016. I've been on every Metro District call. I've sat on this board for years. I don't have a personal vendetta towards either one of you. I want to do what's best for this community, and I'm asking you two to do the exact same thing.
I would agree. Yes, and
Then resign.
Ms. Young, I've asked you not to come off of mute to speak. This is your only warning.
The resignation isn't even the issue. The issue is that we as a board need to work together. And I feel like we're just constantly hitting this wall, and I'm tired of it. I want to move this community in a positive direction, and nothing about this is positive. And the fact that the two of you feel like I'm not capable of doing this, or you feel like I don't like you, or I'm going to vote one way or another, it's disheartening to me, because that's not who I am. So take the time to get to know me before you judge me, is all I'm saying.
So I think we've belabored the point quite a bit. I think
Director Davis, Director Filius, would either of you like to make a motion at this time?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
We're going to go then, hold off on that vote. We're going to go into other business. Any other business to come before the board this evening? For either of the 2 districts? Directors, let me, as I mentioned to you earlier, these meetings are running way too long, way too expensive for you, and we're running out of business, thankfully, to be conducted between now and the budget hearing. Being that the case, I would ask the boards of both of the districts to direct that I work with Jeff and Joan to determine whether or not we need to have an August meeting for your district. And if there is not a business need that would necessitate the expense, that we would cancel the August meeting and have the next meeting be in September. Certainly that's just a suggestion from me to you, and you're the board and you decide how often you'd like to meet. But I think we're really out of business topics to be discussed at this point, other than review of financial statements, which I can email out to you.
David, can I put a motion on to move the meetings to once every quarter?
You can do anything you like, Director
I would like
Baca.
to put that motion to move these meetings to once every quarter.
Is there a second from District 1, please?
I'll second, Jason.
Is that moving the joint meetings? Is that what we're talking about?
It would be I believe in conjunction with D2 if they were amenable to such. Correct, Tony?
Right, I'd say D1, D2 joint. Yes, I think these meetings once a month is just absurd. And I think that, we never had them before and we moved on quite efficiently. And I would like to move back to that.
So I have a
So
motion
we-
and a second from district number 1. Let me take a vote in district number 1, then I'll move to district number 2 for a motion and a second.
Can I ask-
District number 1, are there any opposed? I'm sorry, Director Filius, did you have a comment?
Beginning, like, once a quarter with this, when would the next one be then? What's the suggestion? This is July. Does that mean like working quarter wise, like the year, March, June, September, and December? Or when would the next, Tony, what was your intention for the next meeting to be if it were once a quarter?
So it would be for what is that, 3, 6 days? So every 3 months. So we had one in July. We wouldn't have one in August. We wouldn't have one in September. We'd have one in October. So it would be at the beginning of October.
Is that, do we need to do anything before that, public wise or meeting wise? If not, okay. No, I just wanted to clarify when we were suggesting meeting again. You answered it.
I don't see a business need. However, I would ask that the boards provide the flexibility to Joan and Jeff and I. So if something does arise that really would necessitate having a meeting for the boards to act, we have that meeting called at that time.
Why
So
don't we
would be-
do September, David? That way we're not pushing out another 30 days. Why don't we do one September and then move it every 3 months since then, since we have some stuff that needs to be tidied up?
Yeah,
Let me suggest, if the desire is to go to quarterly, let's skip the August meeting. We'll go to September. You also then have your budget hearing in November. At that budget hearing in November, you may choose to put together your schedule for 2026. At that time, you may also just decide to do it simply quarterly and call special meetings as necessary between those quarterly meetings if needed. Does that sound like a reasonable accommodation to what you're requesting, Director Baca?
It does.
So we will cancel the August meeting, again, unless something comes up that Jeff or Joan says we must meet to have this handled. And our next meeting will be the September meeting then.
Yeah, I'm good with
Any
that.
disagreement from any directors?
Yeah, and to put a fine point on it, we're really changing the regular meeting schedule. We're changing it to September and November, August, October, and December regular meetings are being canceled. So if we meet again, other than those two, it'll be a special meeting.
And then to call out the regular meeting in November is our annual meeting. So that one would just overlap. The regular November meeting would be the annual November meeting that's already on the books. Correct?
Yeah, it's really
Just wanna
two
follow.
meetings, but yeah, there's the annual meeting and then there's a regular meeting.
Yep, perfect. Just want to make sure that we're aligned those two together so it's not happening on 2 different days. And that's the budget hearing call, correct?
Yeah, at the regular meeting, we'll do the budget.
Yep,
hearing.
perfect.
That's so you'll set your budget, approve expenditures, and certify mill levies.
Yep, that sounds all perfect. Just throwing it out there because I know we've talked about it, but we do not need. We haven't yet done a. Oh, help me! Why is my brain blanking? I just talked about it earlier. Budget amendment based upon the presentation from D2 a while back. Do we need to do that before November, or are we going to do that budget amendment as part of November and then the 2026 budget?
We will do budget amendments at that November meeting because we'll have a much better grasp of what actual expenses for the districts are moving into November. We'll inflate that amount and use that as the budget amendment amount.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure we didn't need to do it based upon the planning that Keith, Andy, and I did.
Yep. Jeff, I'm sorry. I think you may have been trying to offer something there too. Did I?
You said the same thing, Dave.
Okay.
No problem. Thank you.
Are we still in the caption other business?
We are in the caption other business, Director Matthews.
Where do we stand on the billing, the facility and service and facility fee?
The invoices went out 2 days ago. In fact, I know that some of those have been received because I received a couple of phone calls today about those. Travis will be sending out an email to our blast list to let them know about this. And we will be putting the resolution up on the district website so that if there are questions people have, they'll be able to see that resolution as well.
So was it a billing quarterly in advance?
Yes, sir. It was a billing quarterly in advance. And Director Davis asked a very good question yesterday about this. And that was, I had mentioned to you that we can set this up for electronic invoicing and electronic payments. That can happen, but it has to be after the first bill cycle goes out. So unfortunately for this cycle, people will have to write checks. The following cycle, they will be able to set up, and we'll send out all the information they need. They'll be able to set up on Express Bill Pay to receive invoices electronically and schedule payments electronically.
Yeah, good. I did see where we had an express bill payment. So
yes, sir.
Setting it up. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Dave, I don't think we ever finished voting for either district on the change in the schedule for the meetings.
Well, we're not actually going to vote on a change to schedule, Jeff. We're going to cancel the August meeting. Since it's a regular meeting that's no longer needed, we can cancel that. We'll have the September meeting as scheduled, so that'll be a regular meeting. The October meeting, unless something comes up in September necessitating the need for that, we'll cancel October. We'll have November, and then based upon how November goes, we'll cancel December, and in November we'll vote, the board will vote on a whole different scheme for next year's meetings.
Okay,
So let's just make sure the website gets updated as soon as possible.
We will show those cancellations 1 month in advance, Joan. I'm not going to cancel the October meeting until September. So I'll show a cancellation for August, but I won't show it tomorrow. It'll be closer to the actual date. Yeah, I don't want to cancel in the event we have a need for one. We can always set it up as a special, but I'd rather not get too far ahead of ourselves.
It sounds like nobody has an issue with August getting canceled.
Right.
Is anybody, either board, have an issue with that?
Nope.
No.
Okay.
Excellent. Directors, Director Davis, Director Gonzalez, unless there's any objection, you as presidents can go ahead and adjourn this meeting for your district, please.
Adjourn.
Thank you.
Adjourn for D2.
We are adjourned. Everybody stay well, stay healthy. To those who joined from the public, thank you again for your accommodations this evening as we held this meeting. I appreciate everybody's patience. We'll talk to you all again, directors, in September.